Good evening, Barbados. Good evening, Caribbean. Good evening, world. This is the Marcia Weeks Show. I'm Marcia Weeks, and we are coming to you live from beautiful Barbados in the Caribbean, the most easterly Caribbean island, Barbados. Welcome. I can see people are already on, and we are ready to go. We are ready to tackle the issues that are happening in the Caribbean, in the country, in Barbados, throughout the region. We're seeing some things happening in different places. I don't know if you're hearing an echo, but I'm hearing an echo that is coming through. But hi, Tracy Barrow. Good evening, Tracy. How are you, Tracy? Wonderful. Great to have you join us. Please share. Please share. Please share. Carrie Pitt Wilkinson. Good night. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit. Or is it that the space has been a lot of people in the space? How are you doing? Easy D. Good evening, Easy D. Oh, my family. I love that. Greetings, family. And this is a family. We have our differences, difference of opinions, but one thing we know is that we love Barbados. We love Barbados, and Barbados really is made up of the people. Yeah, it's really the people. Without the people, there's no Barbados. Without the citizens, there's no Barbados. So though we have difference of opinion, we can gather around this beautiful rock, this beautiful country, and we gather around because we love Barbados. And guys, we are excited. Each night we come on to get educated. Yeah. I come on. First of all, I love that connection that we have. Yes, I love that connection that we have. And there is always education, there is always inspiration that is there. Yes. And so it is always a blessing to be on. Can you tell me why you come on? Good night, Michelle. Yes, Michelle. Good night, good night, good night. Thank you very much. You know why I say that. uh Tracy, Kerry, Easy D, Gwendolyn, Kinch, Calibi from Reading, UK, Oswald Newton. Yes, wonderful. Why do you watch? Why do you log on? Peatway, Brian, VS 1968. Yes, I said Michelle already. Mark, good night, Mark. Mark is one of those that made on those 70 placards that were made for the march. Yes. Been here all along. Yes, wonderful. Wayne, Austin, Jeffrey, Pauline. Hi, Pauline. Rachel Thornhill, Pete Way, Marlene Seeley, Hoyt, M. Hoyt. Somebody says refreshment. Oh my goodness. Well, believe it or not, I came on and forgot to send the link to Mr. Franklin. He's gonna kill me if I don't get if I don't send it. Guys, why do you? Yes, to be educated. Somebody said to be educated. While we're thinking about why do we log on each night, somebody said, "You come on again? Why do you log on each night?" I'm going to ask you to share and to like. Hit the thumbs up now. I see one. Is it one on my screen? It's saying one. One thumb up. That has been hit. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to share. Okay. I'm sharing and I want you to share. Please take a moment and share. Take a moment and share. While we're doing that, we're going to play some ads for you. And we're going to play some of two of our ads. So I'm going to ask Dave if he could play those ads for us while you share. Please share. Please share. Very important that you do, and not only that you share, but that you like it. Like when you like it, people will be able to find us. People are going to be able to find us. So we're going to ask you to go ahead and to like go ahead and like the and like it, put the like the put click the thumbs up.
It's an Errol Barrow Day celebration. Join us in Independence Square on Sunday, 21st of January 2024 at 5 p.m. Come and hear the views of some of Barbados' brightest and aspiring youth, Jonathan Daniel, Thierry Gittins, Timon Howard, and Don Leacock. It's a family event. Don't you miss it.
No. What I want to say to you, you guys caught me sharing there. What I want to say to you is that these ads that we are creating, we came on and we told you that we needed a certain amount of money to do the Starcom ads. We haven't gotten that money as yet. But what we're doing, we have paid for some ads on social media. Has anybody been seeing the ads on social media? Anybody seen any ads on Facebook, Instagram? Can you let me know if you've seen the ads? Have you seen ads on WhatsApp? And anybody can tell me. So we have been putting the ads out on social media. We've been using Facebook, we use Instagram, we use WhatsApp. Anybody's been seeing the ads? There are 161 of you on. Anybody? Okay, I've seen ads on Facebook. Book's been said. Yes. Brian is telling me why he logs on. He says, I log on because I appreciate the alternate views. Kerry Fit Wilkinson, is that a yes that you're seeing ads? Yes. If you're seeing only two persons seeing ads, yes. Mystic is on Instagram. Okay, Mystic, you've seen it on Instagram as well. Okay, wonderful. You haven't seen any ads, Rachel, and nothing on WhatsApp either, Rachel. Rachel, if you check the Marcia Week show, you should be able to find some ads there. And what we're going to ask you to do is to help us to promote. Once you see the ad, you share it. Okay, you're seeing ads on Facebook. Somebody said they've seen ads on Facebook. So if you've seen the ads, we want you to share the ads. Very, very important. Okay, share the ads for us because the cost for Starcom is very, very high. And when you think of what how difficult it is in Barbados at this time, it's very hard to spend that kind of money. You're talking about thousands of dollars. And so if you can help us to get the word out about the Errol Barrow celebrations, we would very, 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 very much appreciate it. Doriel is saying that they see the ad on Facebook. So we're going to ask you, wherever you see the ad, that you share. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you is this. How many of you are going to attend on Sunday? If you're going to attend, put a thumbs up, give or say yes in the comment section. Sunday, what time we start on Sunday? What time do we start on Sunday? Anybody knows? 5 o'clock. Okay, we start at 5 o'clock on Sunday. Mystic says that they're coming. I don't know. 5 p.m. Monica Inns, are you coming? I know those who are overseas are not going to be able to attend. But those of you who are in Barbados, I know most of you are not working. Most of you are not going to be working. Tracy Barrow said she's coming. Tracy Barrow said she's coming. This is the flyer here, guys, and it's a beautiful flyer. When you see it, we're going to ask you to share. To share. Geraldine King said that she will be there, Lord willing. Yes. And, it matters that we're there. Somebody says, hi, Stanley Powell. Stanley's just joined. Eric Lawrence says, yes, I'm coming. I only heard from 3 persons that they'll be there. What about the rest of us? Why is it necessary for us to to attend this event? Why is it necessary? There are lots of them that I can think of. Lots of reasons that I can think of. I don't know how long you became how long you've been a Barbadian, but I've been a Barbadian for 30, well, it would have to be 22 years. And I could tell you so many reasons. I could tell you so many reasons why it is so important to be there. And one of the most recent things, and it's, you might say it's something negative, but I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. And Eric and Wayne Austin says that hello, Emerson from UK. Wayne is saying that I'm going to be there. He said he's going to be there. You know why I believe, why for me, why this particular celebration of Errol Barrow is important. Two reasons in recent times. This year alone, and the year before, we can see clearly that there are some people that would like for us to forget about Errol Barrow. We can see that. We see that there is that attempt to remove Errol Barrow from our consciousness. There is an attempt to do that. And the kind of person that I am, because I know you are doing that, I am going to do whatever I can to keep him in my consciousness. And why is it important for him to be kept in our consciousness? Because he is the founding father of this country. Right? He is the founding father. He's the father of this nation. That's so important. It's like you decide that you're going to build up your house and you're going to do some refurbishing, but you're going to kick out your dad. You're going to kick out your father. You're going to kick out your foundation. Can you imagine you're building a home? Let's think about a house, a structure, and you're deciding that you're going to remove the foundations of the house. What's going to happen? The house is going to fall down. There is a blessing in honoring. There is a blessing in honoring the old, respecting what has gone before, respecting. And I'm going to use this term, and there are Christians who are going to say, well, why do you say ancestors? Ancestors, because these are those who passed on, just like Jacob in the Bible, right? We talk about the ancestry of Jacob or the ancestry of David. It's the same thing. It's nothing hocus pocus about what I'm saying. But when you consider the work that Errol Barrow has done in this country for all of us, and has left such a foundation for this country to be standing on, I say there is no way that we are going to neglect the foundation. And I am saying to us, get your children ready on Sunday. Get the little children ready. You have your church, you go to church in the evening, get your lunch ready early. Bring a little, if you have a chair to sit on, one of those folding chairs, you can bring that, right? You can even bring something extra to lend somebody else. Bring a cushion to sit on because they have, the amphitheater seating there. Bring a cushion. I would also say bring a little jacket, like a light jacket. Bring a light jacket because it is getting a little chilly outside. Yeah, it's getting a little chilly on the outside, so we don't know what the evening might bring. So, and we start at 5 o'clock. So I say bring a light little jacket or sweater to put on, or wear long sleeve, and bring the family out. Let this be a family outing. When you get ready and you decide to come down to Independence Square, Independence Square, a place where they also want us not to use. They want us to use the other place that is next door to that, and want this one to be run down. And we have to say no. We have to say no. I actually remember, it was a couple years ago. It wasn't was it it wasn't last year that we had, I think the DLP did a wonderful celebration inside of Independence Square, where they did all of the lights and all the pomp, and it was beautiful. Our group danced there, and I went there, and they did a wonderful. I can't remember exactly what it is that they were celebrating, but it was done there, and it was so beautiful. The way it was set up, and so on, and they were kind of recreating what happened at Independence, right? And it was so beautiful. And I'm saying to us, Barbadians, let us defy them. Let us defy them. By our presence on Sunday, we are saying to the powers that be that we are going to give the honor that is due to the Right Honorable Errol Walton Barrow. And there's nothing wrong with that. People say, "Oh, well, he's dead and gone," but what we're honoring is his legacy. And I want to say this, everybody that's listening, in honoring his legacy, I want you to think about Barrow's response to what is happening in Barbados right now. What do you think Barrow's response would be to what is happening in Barbados now? The level of corruption, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, the broken promises, the lies that we have been told. What do you think Barrow would say right now? And what do you think he would want our response to be? And I want us to stop and I want us to think about that. I would love for Sunday to be a moment of change for us. If when you come, even if 5 persons can be impacted, 5 persons leave that square and said, listen, it's not about what my country can do for me, but it's what I can do for my country. If we can even get 5 persons to leave that square saying that, after all the speeches, the poetry, the movie, meeting each other, connecting with each other, if at the end of that program on Sunday, even if we get 5 persons to leave to say, listen, I am going to stand up and I'm going to make a difference in my nation. I am going to stand up and I am going to be that change that I want to see in my nation. I'm going to be that change because, it's easy, guys, to all of us that's on tonight. It's very easy to sit back and we could criticize. We could come on every night and we're going to talk about some of the issues that we're seeing wrong going on in the nation as it relates to workers, and Mr. Franklin is in right there getting ready to come on. And when he gives me the thumbs up, I will know that I can get him in. Yes. Yeah. And welcome, Mr. Franklin.
Thank you, and good night, everyone.
It's
You hear
good to
me?
hear you, and
Yeah.
you sound great.
Yeah, they showed me how to use the mic better.
You sound great. You sound great. But I'm saying to our audience tonight, Mr. Franklin, that it is so important. This event on Sunday, it is so important. It is not labeled a protest, but it is, in my estimation, Mr. Franklin, because it is a defiance. It's us saying that we're going to honor the legacy of Errol Barrow, where we recognize what he has done for this country, and we are going to honor the foundations of this country, regardless of what people want to do or say, and they will not take him out of our consciousness.
You asked just now what would Barrow say about what is going on. I'm not even going to talk about what's going on in the country. Generally, I'm going to talk about what's going on around him now and his own party. It is embarrassing. Barrow, and the thing is, Barrow did not want any accolades. He wasn't doing it for the glory of Errol Barrow. That was a good thing about him. Barrow could have made a hell of a lot more money as a lawyer in private practice and corn millions. But Barrow preferred to work for the people of this country. And now his party is embroiled in some controversy with his family about naming something that Barrow did not want. And you ask what Barrow be thinking, oh, Barrow would want to slap them. Honestly, it is especially at this time. And they are so defiant. They're saying, oh, this is what the membership wants. The membership that went to that meeting and voted, most of them didn't know Errol Barrow, didn't know anything about him. They know what they heard. Um, he was the father of independence. He got school meals, he got national insurance building, the free education. That is what they know about Barrow. They did not know about Barrow, the man. And Barrow, the man, was the type of person who did not want his name out there after he is gone to be worshipped. I know you are seeing this behavior. I think it's almost distressing. I was not a member of the Democratic Party, never have been, and I don't think I ever will be. And no, the way they behave, I don't think I ever want to be. Because they do not understand their role. Their role is not to fight with themselves or work with each
Yeah.
other. They need and they want to cling on to the legacy of Errol Barrow without understanding what Errol Barrow legacy was
You
or
know,
who Errol
and,
Barrow was.
and Mr. Franklin, I understand that is happening, but for me, I remove myself from that, and I would love for the audience to begin to, with all of that that's happening around, to find a way to begin to do some personal introspection at this time. Do some personal introspection. Think about, what does it mean to be Barbadian? What does it mean to be a Barbadian? How do I feel about my country right now? How do I feel about my country right now? What can I do for my country right now? Am I proud to be a Barbadian? These are some of the questions that we can ask as citizens all across Barbados. As I said earlier, there are so many things that we can talk about. There's so many things. There's so many issues, and we're going to talk about those now. And Caswell just raised one of them. But you know, folks, we don't want. Let's forget about all of that now, and let's talk about ourselves. What the essence of who we are as Barbadians? What does that constitute? Who am I? And what kind of Barbados? Where do we see Barbados in 20 years? Where do we see Barbados in 20 years from now? And what contribution can we make to Barbados? And that's how I would love for us to go as we approach his birthday, not to approach it with controversy and so on, but to let it become personal, personal introspection about me and my country. That's my little Basil speech there. Mr. Franklin. Okay, somebody, let me read some of the comments that they have here. Somebody says, no, I'm not proud to be a Barbados because the people are still sitting down. Well, you know, Steve, what I will say to you is this. It's not this comment this evening. I don't want us to talk about the people. I want Steve to talk about Steve. And you know, Steve, I want you to talk about yourself. Right? Don't focus on that the people are sitting down. Don't let because the people are sitting down, you are not proud to be a Barbadian. You know, somebody says, Square Four said, Mrs. Weeks, the late Honorable Errol Barrow would have said these are enemies of the taxpayers. That's what he would say. I'm hearing an echo of myself. I'm not sure where. Is it me?
I'm not hearing it.
You're not hearing it. Okay. So it must not be me then. It must not be right. Okay, the late Honorable Errol would have said these are the enemies of the taxpayers. Yeah. Zaire said the people with all the PhD and so on still lack vision. Get back to the community and the people that build this country. Yes, Zaire, and that's where I'm getting at, and I want to ask you, Zaire, what can you do to get back to the community and to the people? Zaire, what as a Barbadian, what can you do when you get up in the morning? What's on your to-do list for Barbados? I'm seriously asking the question. Yeah, we are not going to go into this weekend in any controversy and all that. Yeah. So, guys, I'm asking you as you come on Saturday and Sunday, you bring a folding chair, bring a cushion, a light jacket, or coat, your smiles, and an open heart. And can I give Mr. Franklin? Can I give them homework?
Um, I, I'm stretching it. I don't think they can do it.
Listen, I know they might not do it, but some might. I want you to, if you could, sit down and to just really think about Barbados in 20 years. In 20 years, what year would that be, Mr. Franklin? This is 2044.
The 2044.
2044. What is your vision for Barbados in 20 years time? 2044. Where do you see Barbados in 2044?
In
Huh?
2044, I'll be looking down at you.
You might be an ancestor. We don't know. But guys, let's. I want us to stay positive as we think about the country. We're going to go into some issues in a moment, but I want us to stay positive about this weekend, right? And to ask ourselves what is our vision for Barbados in the next 20 years. It doesn't look like the leaders, we don't know what kind of vision they have for Barbados. It seems like the international community, they have a vision for Barbados, right? But what is the vision for Barbados for the next, 20 years? Where do we see Barbados? Charlene says, thank you, Marcia. Yeah. All right. So, oh, somebody said I'll be 73 years old and I will still, if we're still alive. Sonia Perch says in 2044 we will still be in debt. What can we do, Sonia, to alleviate that? Is there anything we can do to alleviate that? I want us to start thinking about that. But over to Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, what's on your mind? And let me just say that this is one Barbadian that is doing work for Barbados. He's one Barbadian that is sticking out his neck, giving up his time, and sacrificing for this country. He's not asking what Barbados can do for him, but he's asking, what can I do for Barbados? And he's actually doing it. Mr. Franklin, over to you, sir.
Marcia, today I intended to speak about what's happening in the public service, particularly BRA and the Labor Department. But I think I'm going to extend it because I only read my newspapers this evening because it was so busy in the morning. Had meetings, didn't get a chance to read. And I saw an article complaining about some person having been fired, having gone on jury duty. And the Barbados Workers Union piggybacked on that and said, well, we'll come to us and we will do. But let me tell you something straight away. If you go on jury duty and you are dismissed or penalized in any way, you go to the registrar of the Supreme Court and make a complaint. It's a criminal offense. The person who did it, who fired you, can go to jail. You don't want me, you don't want Barbados Workers Union, you don't want anything else. You would want me now if it comes to a case for unfair dismissal and you want to sue the person and put the person before the tribunal. But that person who dismisses you, having gone on jury duty, would have committed an offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, come to jury duty. If you do it, come to me. You don't need to come to me. You need to go to where the matter who can then call the police and say, well, look, this person was summoned as a jury. They will have the evidence, and they turned up and they worked. I know they got dismissed as a result. That person is the registrar of the Supreme Court. She will call the commissioner of police or who she wants to call in the police force or whatever, make the complaint, and then that person could be sued for doing that. It is too basic. But a lot of things people do not know. It is also an offense under the laws, under the Trade Union Act, to dismiss some person who goes to join a union or think about forming a union, and you say, well, let me shut them down. You cannot dismiss, or the legislation use the words, adversely affect their employment. The fine is not a big fine. It's only $1,000 or 6 months in jail. But it is an offense in Barbados. And people say, oh, my company said we can't join the union. That is an offense. And it's happening with companies that come into Barbados more so than anybody else. We are selling a lot of Barbados to non-national, particularly Trinidadians, and they come here and they treat our workers very badly. Not as bad as Sandy Lane by you, but they're getting there. Or not as bad as the government. So the government cannot now regulate these people or force them into them because the government is behaving worse. The government is behaving like a thug when it comes to their employees. And they disrespect them. They change their conditions of service. They stop paying them for things that they should be paid for. And let me give an example. I'd like to use examples. Prison officers. Prison officers have been working now 12-hour shifts since COVID started. It was supposed to accommodate the COVID period and stuff. I think that was a joke. Just needed to run the prisons better and use some of the resources that they have, because you have people who do not do prison officers' work in the prison.
Yeah.
Prison officers are supposed to keep the prisoners in order, and that kind of thing. You have people and they get all kind of fancy titles. They just walk around the prisons and do nothing, and then they work 8 till 4. But prisons are not an 8 till 4 place. So then the people who got to work 24 hours, around the clock. Some people could decide, well, look, we are not working that, and some of them say I'm working it, and the administration does nothing to them because they are holding secrets for other people. We have a prison officer who married a prisoner. That's an offense, and she was brought before the court. The superintendent wrote to the permanent secretary and said, "Oh, she's leaving the country, so I don't want to prosecute, because to give her a fresh start overseas and that kind of stuff." That was a number of years ago. The woman's still at work, but the case has been dismissed. A case for which she could have gone to jail and for which she could have been dismissed from public service and lose her pension. And they lied to the permanent secretary. I have a copy of the correspondence, so nobody want to tell me about it. I will give you a copy.
They lied to the permanent secretary
to get the case dismissed, saying that she's leaving the country, so let her leave with a clean slate. And she has not left anywhere. As a matter of fact, she rules the roost. And prison officers are upset. They are angry because she can get away with almost anything. I will not tell you why she can get away with anything because it's too lurid for this show. But and I have to have some sort of restraint. I got some. Trust me, I do have some.
But Mr. Franklin, don't you see the parallel though? I can't help but noticing it. You see, we're seeing that those who are under, we have the government. If the government is behaving in a very similar way with look at what with the deputy prime minister, all of that, those allegations swirling around her, and nothing has been done. So why do we think that those who are under her that anything would happen to them?
You see, that's the problem. If you are a favored son or daughter, you could do almost anything and get away with it. We have instances where people get charged for simple things, and sometimes things that are not even the law. Because remember when Bob and Pedro Shepard were charged for running an election, that was not against the law. It has not been against the law since 1966 when we got our constitution. But the distinguishing thing with them is that they were two Dems. Because the Barbados Labour Party people did not edit before the thing, just one, and that was only after I started making noise. They said, how come you're not prosecuting the Barbados Labour Party people? And they said, but you don't know what we're going to do? I said, but no, do it. Go ahead, do it. Because you here persecuted the Dems for exercising their constitutional right, suspend them on half pay pending the outcome of the cases, and then one was found guilty and one was found not guilty, but that's another issue. And the one that was found not guilty, they determined, or the courts have determined that what I was saying all along, that there's not against the law. We appealed the decision, and we appealed the decision to the Public Service Appeals Board, because that is what the law requires us to do. You can appeal to the Privy Council, but when you appeal to the Privy Council, you just write a letter, and they read your letter, and then they determine it is the president and her local Privy Council, not the one in England, and they will determine it without hearing any evidence from you. I didn't like that. I don't like that procedure. And I said, well, I'll appeal to the Public Service Appeals Board. The Public Service Appeals Board was established in 2007. To date, they have never named a single person to that board. So I tried to get it established by appealing to the board. So what they did, they then said, well, okay, well, let things go back. Hold on, board. Don't worry about this thing. We will give you your money back and stuff. But he has a record. But they're ignoring the record now. Because when you go down in history and this time is past and you're going through the records, you will see that Bob has a record.
Right.
And the record has not been, there's an appeal, pending, but nothing happened. So he still has their record, even though they say, well, look, we'll give out the money and stuff, because they do not want to do what is right in the
You
public
see?
service. And that is a problem,
But the
right?
question is this, Mr. Franklin, when these things happen to public servants, so we understand what happens if it happens in the private sector. But when it is the government of a country that is ill treating its workers, what's the recourse for those employees?
You have to go to court. And when you go to court, the court takes forever. I like Marcia, I know I like giving examples. Number of years ago, if you were a principal of a school, secondary school
Mhm.
or whatever, you could be promoted to become an education officer. The education officer was the principal supervisor.
Mhm.
Some person advisedly regretted the post of education of principal and paid the principal more money than his supervisor. And Jeff Broom saw it, and Jeff Broom refused to accept any directions from education officers after that. He said, "Well, I work more than you," and he was correct. You see, people don't like Jeff Broom because of whatever they have, but Jeff has always been on correct when it comes to the law. He knew the rules, and mind you, he might twist them, but he didn't break them. And we had a number of officers who wanted to get this matter regularized because there were some of them were principals. They got
Mhm.
promoted to education officer. I know the principal getting more money than them. So they were promoted. They were actually promoted and then demoted because by that regretted they were then demoted. Some of them went to court. Uh, because I couldn't go any further because I wrote the ministry. I tried to persuade them to do the right thing. So we decided
Mhm.
we're going to go to court with the issue. We went to court and it took a number of years. I involved a lawyer, and to his great shame, the case was about to be won, and the government and settled with the officers who actually filed the case.
Mhm.
Now, if the court had made a decision and rendered a judgment, all the other education officers who were disadvantaged would have benefited.
Yeah.
But the government decided, being nasty, decided, oh, since these people put us in court, we will settle with them and them only. So the other education officers did not benefit because we didn't. I didn't think to put all the names of all the education officers. Plus, some of them don't want the names of anything anyhow. But you didn't. You just needed one, for a president. But we had five or so, and the government settled with the five.
But
If a government
but
can cheat
yeah.
its workers like that, that's the problem. The government cheated. When when
Yeah.
when you have it, when you discover that you did something wrong, the government should say, well, we're the
Mhm.
government of Barbados and we should fix it. No, they fixed it by settling with those and then left. And now we have a situation now where education officers are applying to become principals now. And like for instance, the lady at Harrison College, she was an education officer. I know she has gone down, but up in salary to be a principal.
See?
It is madness, and it is madness, and nobody is doing anything about it because we have two labor parties in Barbados. Labor parties are exactly what the name suggests, that they're supposed to be looking out for labor.
Yes, for the
Not,
people,
and
employees.
yeah, that's what they are. If you look at the British Labour Party, they're focused. Matter of fact, the trade unions support the Labour Party in England because that is the
Yes.
party that push the workers' agenda. Now we have
Yes.
nobody pushing the workers' agenda, not even the trade unionists that in Parliament. Most recently, we saw her coming out complaining about the hotels, and now they're saying that the government will pass legislation. That's what they announced. Not, I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's what she was saying. That the government will put legislation on the books that will force hoteliers to comply with certain set of standards. Now, could there? Hoteliers are not the only people in Barbados that need help.
Yes.
Because what was in the air since the 70s, because Bernard St. John went in opposition. He spoke about what he called a Terms and Conditions Act, where anybody in Barbados employing people have to employ them under those terms and conditions.
Yeah.
That is still the desirable thing, but the government wanted to do it in the hotel sector. Why? Because the Barbados Workers Union, that used to be big in the hotel sector, now has less than 20% of the membership of in the hotel workers in their membership. Less than 20% of the workforce in hotels are members of Barbados Workers Union. So the government trying to shore up the Barbados Workers Union rather than shore up the workers of this country. It is stupidity, and it is short-sighted. And again, they did it because they had some meeting. I wasn't there, but I am told that then the Prime Minister and the unions and the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association were meeting. One of the people in the didn't understand what was going on. I asked, where's Mr. Franklin? Because she thought that I was supposed to be at this meeting. This is a bunch of hoteliers. And they said, well, I wasn't invited. She said, but he's the only body that's be at our hotel fighting for the workers.
Right.
So they didn't invite me because it is the government trying to push a union that is favorable to the government as opposed to favorable to the workers. And that is the problem.
Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
No, go ahead.
I'm just shocked. I'm shocked to what I'm here. I'm listening because I'm saying now what recourse that government worker has. You see, there's none because the courts are corrupt and the government is trying everything to wiggle its way, not to follow the laws of the country. And I'm here looking at this thing on my phone here, Mr. Franklin, between 1934 to 1939. This is why you had the labor unrest that occurred throughout the Caribbean, because of these same issues. Workers, they were mistreating workers. And it happened right here in the Caribbean, right throughout the region. And there was the 1937 riots that happened here.
It will happen again if the workers start to rebel against what is happening to them. And trust me when I tell you, it will not be long from now if government don't pull back and do something to represent the majority people in this country. The government is only interested in those who have money, not those who want to earn some, like the employees. And they treat employees not as an asset or a necessary part of their business. They are an annoyance. We need them to make money, or we wouldn't have them. And so they don't have them high regard. Every day, workers cry out, and nobody is listening. And the people who are supposed to be listening, people who are paid to listen. We have a minister of labor that is, I don't really want to curse him tonight. That is a total nuisance. Right? Let me go on. Sorry. We have an Employment Rights Act. The Employment Rights Act is a very good piece of legislation. I thank to Esther Barsuku for bringing it, simply because it gave the workers an opportunity to get justice. Prior to that act, an employer could have fired you for any reason or for none. And as long as they give you your notice. This act, at section 26, provides that if they fire you with or without notice, it is unfair if they don't go through a procedure.
Yes.
And I have heard the procedure is a fair hearing, giving you the opportunity to natural justice, give you the opportunity to speak up for yourself or bring a representative or what have you. You can't now fire some person in Barbados without giving them a hearing, unless it is a situation where it is so gross, like you behind a belt to outside boss or something. So, and even then, he will be entitled to a hearing on appeal. But the employers don't like it because they want to be able to kick people out. And I've heard the minister and the other trade union, don't call their names anymore, saying that the act isn't fair and they need to.
You can you imagine the minister of, I want Barbados to understand what, did you hear what Mr. Franklin just said? I'm just, because I'm a layperson like everybody else. Mr. Franklin is just saying that the Employment Rights Act, which is there to protect the employee, that was put in place by Esteban COOP, okay? This Minister of Labor, along with certain trade union leaders, are saying that the act is unfair to the employers.
To employers. And they actually have people now sitting down making recommendations for changes. The only change that the Labor want is the change of minister. That is the only change they want right now. Because the law does not prevent you from dismissing anybody. All it does is to make sure that if you dismiss somebody, you had a right to do so. And so I don't understand what's unfair to employer about that. Employers want to be able to kick you out the door and don't give you a cent. We have situations prior to this act, and even after, because people didn't know their rights, where an employer would come.
Somebody is saying that you're not hearing. Let me know if you're hearing Mr. Franklin well, Peteway. Peteway, because we want to hear what he's saying. You're not hearing?
Well, I'm going again then, see if you can hear. He's hearing?
Yeah, I can definitely hear this. This now, yeah.
All right, and we had a situation where you could fire people and just pay them out, get them a little something, or don't get them anything at all if you give them notice.
Mm-hmm.
The act prevents that. You have to have a reason to fire the person.
Yeah.
And if you fire that person without giving them a good reason and giving them the opportunity to be heard, the dismissal becomes unfair. No, and according to what the Court of Appeal said, if you do not go through the procedure, there is no question of fairness or unfairness going to raise. That's the end of the matter. You have to go through the process and give people an opportunity to be heard. And this is what the employers don't want, because it wastes their time. They don't want that. So and you have a minister and seeking to get amendments to an act that is fair to employees.
I can't even begin to understand, and this is why this show is so important. I can't even begin to understand how the Minister of Labor is going to be sitting down with people from the trade union, leaders of trade union and employers, to sit down to say that the Employment Rights Act, which is there to protect the worker, that guess what? It's unfair to the employer.
But watch it.
Therefore, they're going to sit down and they're going to change. And we as Barbadian workers, public workers, you're going to sit down and you're going to take that?
I don't know. Watch it. The Employment Rights Act protects private employers and private employees and employees at statutory board. It applies to them, not to the general service. And places like BRA, and I can get to BRA later. So when you have a case, you can take it to the Labor Department and allege that you have been unfairly dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Some time ago, I said on the radio and on the show too that there are not enough labor officers, and at times when you go to the Labor Department, they turn you back because they got nobody there to take your complaint. The chief labor officer came out and denied that. I had one ready this week that happened to. It happens all the time because one, they don't treat the workers at the Labor Department very well. So they get disgruntled, some of them leave. I remember when the building had all the mold and fungus and things growing in it, officers in the Labor Department, in the safety and health section of the Labor Department, come to work and find the mold dropping up on their desk. And all they had to do is wipe it off and hash them out. And they are supposed to go to workplaces and to investigate these things and tell a private employer, you can't do that, but we're enjoying it.
You
This is
see?
government service. Right now, Lord School, full of mold. And they want teachers to teach in that environment. And the labor department ain't gone up there yet. You know? That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're paid to do. And you cannot get a case. They have 42 days after a person makes a complaint to them about being unfairly dismissed to go through the process. And if the process does not result in satisfaction to the employee can then ask them to refer it to the tribunal. I had a case yesterday. The guy was dismissed in July. And the first hearing he got before the Labor Department was July this year. And the first hearing that he got before the Labor Department was yesterday. You know how many 42 days passed? And they're telling me, and she's saying, no, these things are happening. I wouldn't call her a liar on the radio, on this thing, but she's not telling the truth. And she's denying what I am saying. Right? I have a case before them now with the Barbados Revenue Authority, and I can go straight to them. They have a situation where auditors 1 and 2, there's a bracketed post, meaning that you go from 1 auditor 2 and you go to auditor 1 automatically. You don't have to have any more qualification or anything. It's just after 5 years or so, you become auditor 1. There with all of these years that Brad's existence, there are some officers that still remain at 2, getting the lesser pay and doing the work. And I referred that matter to the Labor Department more than 6 months ago. The Labor Department has not been able to get BRA to come to a meeting to sit down and let us go trash out these things. And next, and the thing is, what they have done now is to take the same BRA people, take administrative assistants, which is basically a clerical officer. They don't call them clerical officers that BRA, they call them administrative assistants, and put them to do technical work as auditors. They're not qualified for it, they're not trained for it. So if the BRA come and audit, you're doing these audits, you got people who don't know what they're doing, but they want to pay less money. So God knows what can happen with you and the thing. But that's another matter. Also at the Labor Department with BRA, the messenger was accused of stealing. It turned out that he hasn't stolen anything, but by the time they determined that he hadn't stolen anything, he was already dismissed.
Wow.
The Labor Department has not been able to get BRA to come and sit down and deal with the messenger's case. The man ain't even nothing. The money was sent from the post office. There were postal orders that he was supposed to take to the post office and come back with the money. The post office would verify the orders and write a check, but the check came back short. So they figured he carried the money and fired him. Then the post office sent the money because apparently they didn't verify all at the same time. This man fired, home, without income, disgrace, having been dismissed from the public service for stealing when not a cent has been stolen. And he cannot get a hearing before the Labor Department, or BRA refuses to come to the Labor Department to get his matter settled. All right? And that is why, you see, along with all the other abuse that the staff at BRA suffers, 38 of those staff members in the accounts department, they want transfers. They want transfers out because it is an intolerable situation. You imagine 38 people in one particular section of the office want to get transferred because they can't stomach working in there with these people. And nobody is doing anything about it. The Prime Minister to get rid of the woman who's running the place, because BRA is too important for the revenue collection of Barbados to have some person who's a tyrant or dictator making staff miserable. And what really pleased my heart though, is that there was a staff party. There are 340 members of staff, and the Christmas party, the Sam Lord's Castle, and they invite the staff to them. 70 turn up. The rest will not go. You can't treat me bad for the whole year and then come and tell me, oh, can we have a Christmas party? Merry Christmas, we love you. The staffing turnout, 70 out of 340 people turn up at Sam Lord's Castle. I have a video of the place look like you could run animals through it. You can catch them. The, the place ain't crowded at all. A few people here, a few people there. Because, if those people were treated well and they had a Christmas party, they had that camaraderie and stuff, you would go to the party. But you ain't going to no party when people treat you bad for 364 days and then one day they can have a party. That is the situation that because the
Wow.
people are so incensed at the treatment. They keep telling me, like, for instance, there are these things they call Johnny Postles. These are German roaches. Sheeting the Bridge Street Mall. The boy getting rid of them. They let people go in there and work. I don't know what diseases these vermin bring. I have no idea. But I don't like
But
the idea
Mr.
that one broke
Franklin,
the
my
place.
thing is, why don't the workers, say something about it? I mean, or do something about it? Is it that they're depending on their unions to do this for them?
Well, they were dependent on their union to do something. Their union was the National Union of Public Workers. But the General Secretary of the National Union of Public Workers is now a member of the Board of BRA. So nothing was happening. So gradually they have been coming over to me, and I think I have 116 of them now. And
Wow.
and the yes, a couple of days ago I received a call from the person who was responsible for HR. I don't know who the names of the people that brought to join my unit. I warned her. I said, if you don't believe that I have 95 people at the time, because when I wrote I had 95. If you don't believe it, go to the labor department. That what you're asking me is not your business. Because what they want to do is to victimize people. Because when they heard that people were joining, they're trying to discourage them. And people had to leave their offices for one location to go into the next to try to tell them keep away from Caswell. But apparently that didn't stop the people, and they keep coming. So that is why I have to represent them, because they stand up. At one stage, the staff sick out time last year. And rather than admit the truth, they say, oh, there was just a thing, and then nothing happened. They had to shut down offices. They shut down offices because they couldn't keep the office open. And then they said, oh, they had an environmental problem and they had to shut the office. It wasn't true. It wasn't true, because no, the environmental problem has not been fixed, and if people are still in the same building, why you don't shut it down then? And all it now, they couldn't operate, but the staff are being threatened, and they're not be afraid. But it will take time to get them up to a stage where
Yeah.
their disgust will say, but look, this thus far and no further. It is a
Yeah. Yeah.
complete mess. And at the bra,
It's
at the
it's
labor
really sad,
department.
and I want to I know this is a good night, Kimar. Good to see you. How you doing?
Good night, Marcia,
Good
Caswell.
night.
Can I, Kimar?
Yeah. Good night
Yes.
to the
You,
loyal
Listen,
opposition.
yeah, you're glad you're not working in public service now.
Well,
but
sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead.
no, I was saying I know you've been listening, and I'm just amazed to think that here we have, this is a labor government that is in there. You have the labor in the name, and they are just fighting against the public servants. It's like the government is fighting the workers in the public sector. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I'm hearing that the Minister of Labor is saying that the Employment Rights Act is a bit unfair to the employer. What are your thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah, he said it was too pro
Poor
worker
worker.
and
Mhm.
anti business. but
Yeah,
um, but that's not surprising because um the party that he serves um traditionally is funded by the business class. Heavy, heavy, heavy
mhm,
donors, right? Um, Particularly the constituency that he represents have quite a few influential people in it in terms of wealth. So he has to represent for them by saying things like that. He was, I mean, he's a Seventh Day Adventist like me, but some of these, but he worked in the hotel industry, so he understands
Mhm.
what it is to be a hotel worker. He understands what that is, right? So coming from a background like that, um, I see it, um, where like you come from a background of being a worker or working in the
Yes.
hotel space, right? So you understand the injustice that happens in these spaces. So by saying that, he clearly shows that he represents for the business class, the donor class, right? The people who sponsored probably his seat and put him in office, right? He was also the minister for something called the third sector, right? And basically, this the third sector is influential people who volunteer, right? Volunteerism, right?
Mm.
So yeah. So if you understand what the third sector is, then you would understand why Mr. Jordan is saying the things that he says as it relates to the anti-business legislation. Now, this has a bigger connotation to it in that the government has connections to the International Labor Organization. The International Labor Organization, the ILO, um, hands down basically what you call standards for work, right? So they basically provide advice. Um, hold a minute.
Mhm. Okay, I think Kimar, I'm getting some noise from
Yeah, yes. Okay.
behind
He
here.
was talking. He was talking about Colin Jordan. Ask him if he knows of a company called Cobbler's Cove, a hotel in his constituency, and that is probably one of the worst hotels in Barbados in terms of workers' rights. They treat the
Hmm.
staff like dirt. I
You're
remember
saying
one
Cobbler's Cove?
Cobbler's Cove just before you get to Spikestown.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
before you run about Spikestown, just before you get there. I was meant to represent a girl, a young lady there, and when they heard I was coming, they tell the girl come back to work. We're not Caswell down here. They don't want me in the place. I want to ask him if Cobbler's Cove contributed to his campaign
Hmm.
in terms of a big check, and if that is the case, that's is that why he's refusing to go there and fight for these workers? I'm asking a question. I'm asking, did they contribute a sizable donation to his campaign?
Yes.
And mind you, I know people who were in the camps that got fired. So I
Okay.
hope you give me a straight answer. You see, the problem here is that the workers can't give you a sizable donation, not only for Cobbler's Cove or any other person. So you get it from the people. And then if a person's money, you know what they say? He who pays the piper calls the tune. And this is
Hmm.
what is happening in the Barbados Labour Party administration because the people who voted for you are not calling the tune. It's the people who give you the money to get them people to vote for you. Kimar, but you were saying so. Go on, Ben. You had the issue,
Yeah.
so I'll come back in.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the ILO and our current Minister of Economic Affairs,
Yeah.
the new one, he sat on the board of the ILO recently as a Director General or so, right? Tony Moore, also a part of the ILO, and
That's true.
if you hear the Prime Minister, she's constantly referencing the ILO. No, part of the new world economy is basically, or the new agenda is to weaken the collective bargaining power of trade unions. right?
Ah,
So
say that again. Listen, say that again because you see, listen, Kimar, what you said there is so full of weight because that explains a lot of the positioning of our prime minister. And Barbados needs to understand that. Say that again, Kimar.
yeah, yeah, the Prime Minister is constantly speaking about the International Labour Organization, and two members of Parliament are directly on the ILO body, Tony Moore
Mm-hmm.
and the new Minister Economic Affairs, Chad Blackman. So um, the collective trade union movement um, is being systemically weakened,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Barbados, because the unions and the rights of the workers they were substantial enough that the employers could not do what they want to do. So you will hear Caswell speaking about all the discrepancies in terms of these employers in Barbados, particularly foreign-owned hotels, especially foreign-owned hotels, right? So the role of Colin Jordan basically is to erode or to reverse the collective power of the trade unions and to allow these capital enterprises to grow more capital. So smart wage cuts, the removal of the ability to hire and fire. So there's usually a process to firing people. They want to make it much easier for businesses to fire people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they want to remove all of the, well, not all, but most of the bank holidays that we have in Barbados, because when I worked at Sandy Lane in particular, I had to sign a contract, and I had to work on Christmas Day and Boxing Day for flat pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is illegal. You're supposed to pay people double um, when you do things like that. But again, they ask you to sign a contract and bring you on as what they call casual workers, right? Or independent contractors. So you don't pay NAS or you don't pay income tax, right? So the business basically pay you as a gig. So you will walk away with no benefits, no pension or NAS contribution, no tax contribution, no health benefits. So there's no liability for you on the job, right? So there's no liability for you on the job. So if you get hurt on the job, the businesses don't owe you anything. I see Caswell wanted to
Mm-hmm.
say he muted.
Wait, 1 second.
I,
One
I,
second. Go ahead,
yeah,
Caswell.
I wanted to touch that because what that is a criminal offense in Barbados. Not paying national insurance contributions for your workers is a criminal offense in Barbados. But nobody prosecutes them. When the inspectors from national insurance go out and and report these people, it has to go to the board, and the board say you can't prosecute them. Then it goes to the ministry, and somebody ministry take off names and stuff. And in the end, nobody gets prosecuted for not paying contributions. If a person is working for you, you do not decide if that person is a private contractor. The only body who is empowered by law to make that determination is the National Insurance Board. So if you want to determine that your people are private contractors, you have to go to the National Insurance Board. The Employment Rights Act, the first schedule to that act, sets out some of the conditions that will determine if you are a, an employee or a private contractor. And uh, for instance, it says that there's an obligation on the part of the employee to give personal and exclusive service. All that means is that if you are a private contractor, you can bring in your staff. Now, if you can't bring in your staff, you are not a you are not a private contractor, right? The work is done in accordance with the instructions of the employer, and the manner in which the work is carried out is subject to the control and directions of the employer. Again, that says that you are if that is the case, then you are an employee. The work has continuity, and such continuity creates for the employee an economic dependence upon the employer without there being any financial risk to the employee. So you don't got the money in the company, you're losing the money if the company don't make money or not. You get your salary. So if that is the case, you are an employee. But and there's several more. You're subject to discipline action. Could Pray tell me, I'm a private contractor working myself, and you can call me in a meeting and discipline me and suspend me on half pay for a week or suspend me
Mm.
without pay for a week. You are an employee. But what has happened? The government is the biggest offender in this area. All that no, they still have people like they're calling them private contractors and not paying national insurance for them. And Colin Jordan acknowledged that when they challenged him on the calling program, but they realized that day. And he said the government was error and they're gonna fix it. And say, but let me fix it fast enough yet.
Yeah.
Because
But
the government is not paying. You remember Rachel,
yes,
she suffered as a result of that because the government was not paying her national insurance contributions. Kimar was quite right. Because if you don't pay national insurance contributions, when you get ill or you get injured by the job, you can't get nothing.
yeah, yeah.
And as a result, the people suffer. And when they suffer, the government refuses to do anything about it. It is wrong, but the government cannot go there and prosecute people for doing what they are doing.
So, Caswell, basically, let's break this down, and then I'm gonna ask. I have a question for Kimar, on this issue here. But basically, we have a government in place, guys. Listen carefully. We have a government in place that is in complete support and backing of the business class in this country. This government that is in place is not for the working class. And this government in place have swallowed up all the unions except one to make sure that the business class continues to be propped up. Now, Kimar, you said something about the weakening of the collective, the bargaining power of the trade unions. Why do you think that this new world, I don't know if we call it a new world order, but where we're going in terms of this new world that they want to create globally, why do you think it's important for them to weaken the collective bargaining power of the trade union? Why is that necessary?
Well, it's basically taking us back into modern day slavery. Or the slave plantation, there were no trade unions. uh, you could have come together in any group to talk about you all talk to massa about giving you AC in the lunchroom and having a microwave and having a fridge. So they're taking us back there where the business owners will no longer have to provide for workers, right? So you come, you get paid the minimum, and you go home. So you even see where like businesses are reducing the lunch hour of people. They don't even want to give you a break. They want you to work straight 8 hours and then tell you that you could take your lunch hour after the 8 hours, not realizing that you have to include the lunch hour within the 8 hours, right? But they force people to work 8 hours and then give you half hour for lunch, right? So the reason for doing this really is so that businesses are capital, what they call capitalism, the capitalists are the accumulation of wealth. So spending all of this money to take care of workers who work for you is something that they want to get rid of. Right? Having minimum work hours in terms of minimum payouts, they want to get rid of that because in a country like Barbados, where the education system is so good, you have to pay people according to their qualifications, right? So even if you don't leave school with CSCs per se, you could at least speak and you could at least write. And you will at least
Yeah,
have the technical skills to do the manual labor, right? So the minimum wages in Barbados require people to be paid a specific amount, right? So when a business comes here, one of the highest costs a business has to face is labor costs. You have to pay people, right? So the business class is looking at the fact that their input costs in terms of wages and salaries is so high. And if you want to fire some of these people, you have to go through a whole right tape. You got to pay them severance. You have to pay them more, do all of these things. So you saw during the pandemic when severance was due that the Attorney General of Barbados extended the severance payments, the time frame that workers are required to be paid. So they extended it to allow the businesses to escape from paying out severance. Right? And the Attorney General said that this is a lifeline for businesses.
Mhm.
Right? He said
Not
that.
not for the worker, yes.
Not for the workers. And I'm hoping, Mr. Franklin and Caswell, that we are listening. Almost 500 of us on here. We are listening. These are some of the conditions, Kimar, why there was in 1937 riots. And they need to understand something, that if the workers in Barbados decide that they are going to put down their tools and they're not going to work, this business class, how are they going to eat?
Marcia, I want to read something for you. You see, a lot of people um don't realize that hotels are regarded as shops. For the people who work in the restaurants and in the bars and stuff, they are shop assistants.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the law treats them. All right. So according to the law, as shop assistants, you are entitled under Section 6 of the Shops Act, under Section 6(2), subject to subsection 6, no shop assistant shall be required to work A, on any day for more than 4.5 consecutive hours without an interval of 1 hour for mealtime, and for more than 8 hours in aggregate to run continuously from the time he commences work, but excluding the interval for meals. And if you do that, when you overtime is a gift from the employee to the employer. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to work overtime. You can say no. But if you work overtime, then they must pay you. And it sets out the rates at which you must be paid. Time and a half, double time, or whatever. But what these people have been doing
Mm-hmm.
is not giving the people the lunch hour, because the law says you must give them a lunch hour. That is an offense. And they're not doing it. But unfortunately, the Labor Department is not taken seriously by the government of Barbados, and they don't give the Labor Department the resources to police the pieces of legislation that they have to police, being
Mm-hmm.
the Safety Health at Work Act, the Employment Rights Act, in particular, those two. There are others, but those two in particular. And labor officers get angry. I was going to say off, or use another word, but
Mm-hmm.
and they leave. Some retire. They bring young people in who have the qualification but not the experience yet, and they're getting there because some of them I've observed them, and they're becoming quite good at what they do. But
Mm-hmm.
then they get vexed and say, like, I don't want to stop here anymore because they don't let people treat it and say, yeah, and they're gone again. So you're going to get more. And I think the two of the best young labor officers that I saw in recent times, they take them out the labor department and put them to do personal work in the ministry, because the permanent secretary has the power to transfer people from any place in her ministry, as long as you go. And that's what she did. I weakened the labor department. You can't get cases done. The government is not. The government set up structures. Again, let me use an example. The Employment Rights Tribunal has 9 members on the tribunal, but a panel of the tribunal to hear a case is only 3 people: a chairman, one from the employer side, and one from the worker side. The chairman is a lawyer. Well, it's chairman or deputy chairman, because the deputy chairman are also lawyers, and they two of them, and then one chairman who was supposed to be a lawyer as well. Would you believe that for its entire period, there was only one person who was the transcriptionist and the secretary? I'm talking about one person who was doing those two roles. So the secretary couldn't sit with that one panel and somebody else sit with another one because it was only one woman doing both roles. So only one panel could hear a case, any case at a time. Then, when the situation came out, there was no place for the labor department, in the labor department or in the Ministry of Labor or anywhere else for the tribunal to sit. So the tribunal has to rely now on getting a room if it is not booked by somebody else. So the tribunal can't adjourn your matter to next week on the 6th or next week on the 10th because they're going to adjourn it and hoping they can get a room for you to sit down in and hear your case. Right? So the tribunal sometimes they would love to work. When they do get a chance to work, and they got the secretary and everybody they're ready, but they can't work because they got a place for them to work. Government has not provided a space for the tribunal to call home. No meeting rooms for the tribunal. And so you think that this government is taking the workers or the workers' causes seriously enough to merit calling themselves a Labour Party? That's only a name.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Marcia, earlier I was telling you about the prison officers. And I want to start that because I don't want to miss it out. I have a note here with them. I was telling you prison officers work for 12 hours straight. And then, and this is 3 years going on, you know. Some of them are getting sick because you know what it is like to work 12 hours and then come back and work another 12 hours thing. When you go home, the children sleeping. The wife sleeping too. And when you go and lay down, she get nudged, left me because I want to sleep. So you go back to work in that condition. Back to work the next day, 12 hours, don't get the time for yourself. And they're not paying them a cent in overtime. They're not paying them a cent in overtime. I have made representations because each person should be getting 4 hours overtime every time they work a 12-hour shift. Now, the authorities at the president said, well, we can give you 8 hours overtime a month to compensate you for all those days that you work 4 extra hours every day. So if you work 20 days in a month, they want to turn around you 8 hours overtime. It is ridiculous. And prison officers are dropping down sick. Mind you, COVID is back up there. But that's another issue. And that is scary for them because the last time they had COVID in the prison, they called the prison officer, tell them come to get tested and lock the door behind them and let them out. So they had to. So they got some. Yeah, they got some. Yeah, they did that. They imprisoned prison officers.
Abuse upon abuse. Somebody has a question here, and they want to know. Just read it, Caswell. I'm gonna go to Kimar, and by when Kimar is finished, and you can respond to it. Let me ask you. So, Kimar, I'm back to this thing that you were talking about, the reducing of the collective bargaining power of the trade unions, and this seems to be something that is, they're pushing worldwide. In Trinidad on January 10th, actually, Pennywise, there's a big company in Trinidad. They decided that they are not going to give paid lunch hour anymore or 15-minute break. That was going to be a big thing in Trinidad. I mean, by the next day they had to change it, but they employ a lot of people. But you mentioned something about slavery, and you hear this kind of thing that is being bandied about on social media, and people say, "Oh, it's conspiracy theory." But there are people who believe that their whole system is moving the world towards slavery. Is this what you're alluding to, Kimar?
Yeah, well, almost basically, the conditions that existed during slavery. Um, since then, the world has progressed significantly. since then in terms of protection for workers, better treatment by employers, proper paid wages, clean and sanitary work conditions, uh, more protection in law or legal protection, so that you say Employment Rights Act and different types of legislation that was passed to give the workers more protection um, from the employers. But those protections and those legal protections that were provided by the constitutions of countries,
Right.
uh, the conditions that businesses now operate under, and by the way, you're making me go into a little bit about what my show is going to be about tomorrow. um, those conditions exist today because of our politicians, and Kazuka explained this much better than me. We had trade unionists as politicians much earlier in the times, or they didn't necessarily, but we had one or two of them who had seats, but the heads of labor unions had that apolitical approach. Even though some of them supported political parties, many of them, like Caswell, always put their unions first, right? But today, we saw with the introduction of personalities like Tony Moore and the introduction of personalities like Akani McDowell that they've been open members of the Barbados Labour Party and
Kim,
openly
Kimberly Ehrgart, too, don't forget her.
Kimberly Air. They
President and UPW.
right.
She won't run in some place.
Well, okay then. We now have trade unionists who are using the unions for political advancement and social upliftment. So as opposed to the heads unions being there to represent the workers, right? So let's look at the wage negotiations that happened recently. They wanted 24% or 23% or so under one government. Then the government offered 12%. They refused that. Then when the government changed, well, before I say that, I should say that the trade unionists in Barbados allow the same business owners to pay workers to go out and march, right? Never in the political history of anywhere were workers paid, or did the slave masters ever pay the slaves to go out and march, right? But workers were paid in hand with the political system, right? So anytime you see that merger, a merger between the business class, the capitalists, the employees, and the workers, and the government, that's a very dangerous merger. One, because the trade union leaders tend to negotiate more where the power is, right? And the power is with the government, given that we have a substantial 30 left, right? So we could see that when the government changed, they accepted 4%, which was a complete sellout of the workers, right? If we reverse back now at the time, that would have never happened back in the 80s, the 70s, when it was really about the workers' rights. But today is no longer about the workers' rights, it's about the advancement of the trade union leaders because they are now married to the political system. And as the former Prime Minister Fernando Strutt describes it, lambs laying down with lions. And at the end of it, who gets eaten? A lamb can't eat a lion, but a lion can eat a lamb, right? So, and a prime example of this, the wage negotiation for the Grant International Airport with the PPP lease.
Mm.
The workers that were represented by the NUPW said to me, right, that they could have gotten substantially more in terms of the wage that they received in negotiation that was substantially higher than the 4% that the government gave. But the head of that union at the time, and they called his name to me, so I'm just going to call his name. They said that Richard Green said to them that it would not look good that he is going into the room and asking for a wage increase that is substantially more than what the government just gave the other public servants. But the board of the hospital said that they were willing to pay more. But he,
Wow.
as the head, said no, 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 he can't do that. He can't think.
Let me jump you here because the chairman of the board, the airport board, said to the unions, you know, the government says that we should go and give this particular increase. He said, but there is still room where you can build a little something, ask a little something here, a little something there, and so we can get. The chairman invited the union to make better proposals, despite what the government has said, because the airport is a private company owned by government. It is not a government department. So there's room because the airport makes its own money. And the union refused the chairman's offer to put in higher proposals. And the unions accepted what the government told them to accept. Mind you, I was grateful for that because then a whole slowdown came over by me. But that was unfair, that was unreasonable, and no worker should have given them another cent after that. Even if they don't come over by me. You can't betray the people because you must remember, you must understand what your core functions are. Your core function is not kissing the behinds of the government. Your core function is to look out for the best interests of the workers. They are the people who pay your salaries. Because the government give you a duty-free car, if the workers didn't have you there, you don't get a duty-free car, Mercedes and BMW and that kind of thing. You didn't get it. So your best interest. I remember as a boy growing up, Frank Walker, who was a member of the House on the Democratic Labour Party side, strike against Barrow because he and Barrow, it was either Democratic Labour Party or the workers' issues. And Frank sided with the workers and called a strike against Barrow and bring him to his knees. When the Public Order Act was being debated back in 1970, the union insisted on protection for their demonstrations and marches and stuff. And like the unions can hold a meeting. Like if I wanted to hold a meeting as part of my union, I can get permission from somebody and tell the police. I gotta get the permission from the police if I can hold a public meeting as a trade unionist. But Frank Walker insisted on those things despite what his party was saying. But no, we have people who decide, well, my party says this is what we must do, so they forget to stand up for workers. And workers taking it. You have the power. I tell workers they have the power. If you do not pay that $26 that you pay the unions when the month comes, they won't be there to unfair you. And they were got to do like the BWU because the government was subsidizing them for the last couple of years. Because the government wants NUPW and BWU to survive because they have control over them. Like for instance, in the estimates this year, you will not see 1 cent voted for BW or NUPW in the estimates. What they will do is to vote money to the Ministry of Labor to give grants. So then the Ministry of Labor makes it out, so they don't tell you that there's money for NUPW or BW. And they say it's for education. The Labor College shut down. What education what? You see, NUPW training nobody this either, but they get the money. So, and they pay like bill and all kind of stuff with it. Because the government wants to make sure that these people survive who will not challenge them. And when you want, I said government, I thought with Bobby's their party though, because people might think I'm talking about both parties when they're in government. When the Democratic Labour Party is in office, the unions become militant. And then when they know that they have fines, but when the government changes and the Dems are gone, the unions take out their fines and put in rubber teeth and sit down and roll over and let the government play with the belly, like how we do with snow, it's not like a belly rub. And that is what trade unionism has come to. Kimar was quite correct. Employers paid workers in this country to march against NSRL because they did not want to pay. They wanted government to raise VAT and not pay NSRL because VAT, they could get back VAT and some of them wouldn't pay in. Because I tell you, some nights ago I told you about one company, Courts, that had $35 million in VAT that they collect and won't pay in. And then somehow they get written off or something like that. That's the problem. So the government makes sure it takes care of the employers, and the workers suffer. But then you will see a whole bunch of workers out there with red t-shirts jabbing up on whatever mayor cares and all kind of nonsense. Cares about who? Or cares about when she care? Yeah, she cares all right, but not about them. But but this mass hysteria that they create wrong election campaigns, and the music and the dancing and the food, all of which are illegal under our law. They can't legally do that, but they do it and they get away with it. And then they're back in office, and then the same people who have voted for them treat badly. I'm not hearing you, Marcia.
I'm saying that I'm hoping that Barbadians, that we are listening. I pray we are listening. I really hope so. And not because we somehow, it's like, you're so accustomed to bad treatment, accustomed to being treated badly. And
Well,
you're hearing it, or it's like a wife or a girlfriend that is being beaten, and they're in an abusive relationship, and you're hearing but you're not hearing. And the Himar said something. He said when he was younger he was working somewhere and they gave him something to sign. A lot of Barbadians, because they're thinking that, what am I going to do? I have to take this job, right? It's in yourself. The conditions aren't right, but things are hard. And so you're thinking. Are you hearing? You're hearing echo, Himar, in my.
no,
No, not me, you say.
Okay.
no,
No, I'm saying I'm hearing an echo whenever I speak. I'm
no,
not.
I am not hearing that echo.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that we are listening as it relates to workers' rights in this country versus the business class workers, versus the employers' rights. Let's listen on that. Any more on this topic as well? Anything else on
Yes,
this
because
topic?
there's something I want to mention. You
Yes.
see, public servants are supposed to be there to service whichever party is in power.
Mm-hmm.
They should be independent and impartial. We're not saying that they can't support a political party, but not in their jobs. And as a result, to make sure that the politicians don't have the say into who should be employed in the public service, there is supposed to be an independent body called a service commission that would employ the people in the public service. But the service commissions have been neutered, and the politicians get their way, right? And it troubles me that when a person, there's a job available the, in the public service right now, don't care all the interviewing you do, the person who ends up with the job
Mm-hmm.
somehow got connections to the government. I'm hearing now that there's a new appointment at the Barbados Employment and Career Counseling Service as a new director there under the Ministry of Labor. The lady, I understand that the lady who got the job, her husband was one of Jordan's canvassers. I want to verify that. I want to verify if that is actually correct, because it was peak to political interference in the public service. Because first of all, he has no say. He has no say into who should be employed in the public service. It's supposed to be done by the Service Commission and the people in the Ministry of Public Service, except in the case of heads of departments, their deputies, permanent secretaries, and their deputies. The Prime Minister is supposed to be consulted on who, not select, consulted. But in Barbados, we miss and say consult, and the Prime Minister take that to mean that the Prime Minister has the right to determine who get these jobs. No, you're supposed to be consulted. And the Prime Minister very well know what consulting means, because when you're supposed to consult the leader of opposition on an appointment, you tell him. And he said, but I don't agree. So okay, I may consult you though. But not in the case where it's hiring your friends. And why I'm telling you what the Constitution says in terms of consultation. In Trinidad, Patrick Manning was Prime Minister, and they have a similar provision in their Constitution where the Prime Minister is supposed to be consulted by the Service Commission.
Hello? Can't hear. We can't hear anything.
Yeah, I think the thing just knocked him off.
Right.
That's
Okay. Yes. Continue, Caswell. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh wow, we can't hear Caswell at all. Okay.
Right.
Can you hear me, Kimar?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so Caswell, you probably have to go out and come back in. I think what that action messed you up. Okay. Yeah. But while we're gonna go on to something else, but this thing with the workers' rights, I think that this is so important, Kimar. I think Caswell is back. Let me let him finish his point. Caswell?
Right? Yeah, I was saying Patrick. So Patrick Manning had a similar provision in the Constitution of Trinidad, and he decided that a particular person is supposed to be appointed permanent secretary. The commission said that is your pick, but that's not ours. And Patrick Manning put the commission before the court, and the court ruled you were consulted. And that's all the law required. They consulted with you. Consultation doesn't mean that they have to accept your wishes. And that was decided, but not in Barbados. The Prime Minister decides who will be heads of department. And as a result, the public service is becoming more BLP as we go along. And that is the problem, because you're bringing the BLP politicians and putting them at the top of the service. And a lot of people who merit jobs don't get them, because somehow at the interviewing process, you get the interviewers to be your people too. And then they pick the people who they're supposed to pick. And it is destroying the public service. That is why then you can turn around and find consultants, because the people that you have in the jobs can't do them, because they do not have the necessary training or expertise. And as a result, we're paying more for our public services than is necessary, because politicians want to get their hands on the job. Because they want to get their hands on the job. I'm not saying that if there's a job available, you can steer a fellow in the right direction, but you can put him in it. And that is what is happening in the public service. And I think, but I said in the Senate some years ago that in the public service, no, it is you got to have connections to get a job. You got political connections, you got connections of school ties, and connections of the carnal kind. And when I said that, I was challenged, and I said, but the person got pregnant, and you had to give the boy a job, to make sure that the child gets supported. These things happen. We have in one government department, but not in the government department. We have a head of department, His former girlfriend, his former mistress, because he's married, is a deputy, and his current mistress is one of his deputies as well. This is what is happening. You gotta got some sort of connection. You got, and
Mm.
this country has become so corrupt that we, it is shocking. You wouldn't believe the sleaze that goes on, and even in the prison. Remember, I call it one stage Dodds brothel, and I call it so for a reason. It is bad, and hard working officers there can't get a break because
Yeah.
them men got the parts that people want. I'll say no more.
Yeah. We could. I mean, there's so many issues with the workers' rights. So many. But we're seeing. I don't know if we can take a look at the energy sector, the COOP energy project. I'm getting people are sending me a lot of information about that, and I want to know if any of you have been reading anything about that. I'll just read one of the comments that was sent to me about it. Well, for sure, the ex-workers are back on the job at the new company, right? So that's something that came out. But this note says the Co-op Energy project has started with many unanswered questions. The management teams of the companies have not been identified, whilst Colonel Trevor Brown continues to be the only spokesperson for the new companies. Colonel Brown restates his position that the emphasis of the project is the sugar industry's transformation into a renewable energy driven sector. This contrasts with Dr. Clyde Moscow's position that the project's short term focus is making Port Vale a viable sugar and molasses factory. Renewable energy will be an add on in the future since this requires investment. So already they're at odds. Giving the differing views about the short term focus of the new arrangement, it can be predicted that over the short term, millions of dollars in losses will have to be underwritten by the financiers of the Co-op Energy project who have remained nameless up to this point. And I remember Dan Kimar saying that on this program, and we did a show on that, saying that we don't know who this other party is, right? Also, given Colonel Brown's passion for co-op energy to gain a foothold in the renewable energy sector, the implicit message sent is that the co-op energy is reasonably assured of the estimated 100 million required for investment in Port Vale factory. This is hard to believe given the very risky nature of the project and the unfortunate reality that the national planning for the renewable energy sector is characterized by uncertainty and confusion. An article in Barbados Today on Tuesday, January 16, noted that the shareholding structure of the companies is as follows: 55% to Co-op Energy, 20% to 1,100 former and current workers of BMC, and the remaining 25% to the government, which will be sold to interested Barbadians who never worked in the sugar industry. It was also stated that the workers did not have to purchase any of the shares, and the dividends of the workers would remain with their families. An important question emerging is by what process did the 1,100 former and current workers of BMC become shareholders in the new company? The specific nature of the announcement confirms Colonel Brown's previous revelation that at the national policy level, the government has taken the revolutionary decision to transform all former workers in the BMC operation into significant shareholders. If the workers did not have to purchase the shares, did the government use the taxpayers' money to purchase the shares? If the answer is yes, the administration has a moral and ethical duty to tell the public how much money was expended, and it goes on. But it is as this person who wrote this and sent it to me. The concern really is that this is supposed to be something that would cause us to kind of diversify the economy a bit, etc. And then there is confusion about it. The colonel is saying, has one view about it, of the purpose of it, or what are the main objectives. And here we have, we're now having your friend there, Dr. Clyde Maskell, with a whole different um, idea of why it exists. I don't know if you guys have any comments on this co-op, the co-op energy project.
I weighed in on the project when it first started because they were proposing to take credit union money. I went through the law then to point out that you can't invest credit union money in a speculative venture. The law does not allow it. And I even showed them the law that says the amount of money that any credit union can invest. I got some calls from people saying, man, could their Calvin money shouldn't do that. I said, no, that's what the law requires. And I don't want credit union money to be taken up illegally. I would be very happy if co-op energy is a success. But it cannot be a success by people taking up money that does not belong to them. Because people hear that credit unions got a lot of money and feel credit unions washing cash. That is not the case. Credit unions' major asset on their book, when you see, is a loan portfolio. So when you hear the credit union has so much assets, the biggest asset in any credit union is the loan portfolio. It's money you already lent out. So you don't got the money there saying no better anymore. It's in people's pockets. Or in stores or wherever you spend or overseas with or whatever you did with that money. It is not there. What that proposal would have done would have been to bankrupt some credit unions. Yes, but what they then shifted to try to do is to say, well, okay, under the law, since we can't take credit union money, credit unions can invest in another cooperative. I say yes, but if you're going to make a major investment, you have to come to the members to do so. You just can't take out the members' money. Now, if you want to buy a car, you don't go for the CEO or whatever. You don't have to come to the membership meeting of the membership. But if you're going to make a major investment in the credit union, the law requires you to, not the board, the membership, to vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the credit unions have been, at least I hope, spared, because like Colonel Brown, he's a credit unionist. I know him for a lot of years. I know him from school, and one of the other people with him too, another credit unionist and stuff, and they believe in cooperatives. Me too. Maxine, great cooperator, but at the same time, we cannot allow government to dangle a little carrot before us and realize that the carrot got pins inside. So when you eat it, it kill you. It will, if you take the credit union money, it will destroy the credit unions. Get money from elsewhere, because the government is under instructions from the IMF to divest this body, And government can't find anybody to buy it, so they're going to entice the gullible credit unions to get involved. And that is the problem, because government will trick you. I remember some years ago, I was a member of the board of directors of Public Workers Credit Union. And we were going into a venture to give our members, to help enfranchise them, give them some jobs and stuff, because some of them had lost work in the government service when they got the layoffs and stuff. So we proposed to buy Corverley. And because Corverley was plantation land and it was the soil was good and rich and deep. So what we were planning to do is to construct houses at Corverley on small farms, so that our members can find jobs and find work and employ other people. We sat down. We even had drawings of the properties that the houses that we want to do, and we were identifying even funding because we don't want to use all the credit money, so we were going to get assistance in doing so. And when we went through all of that, the government said no and get to Maloney. So when there's a reasonable and viable something that could make money for the credit unions, the government ain't interested in letting the credit unions get involved in it. They want to give us things that they know or they suspect are not viable. Same thing they did with the agro-processing plant. We had an agro-processing plant, and they wanted the credit unions to inject $3 million in that, and they know that they didn't have any place, any vegetables to process. But they wanted the credit unions to invest in it. But thankfully, things fall off trucks. And I was going on the road and saying, blow off a truck, and they saw it, and they got this document. So I went to the meeting, they got really bad, and then it was voted down. You know, these trucks, sometimes, these trucks, happen, they got the load and they get blow off. If something did not blow off a truck, the credit union would be stuck with something that co-winners want to get where from. And that's what the government have been doing consistently. They are looking to take the credit union money and spend it foolishly, and then we lose it. They took up the credit union money when the credit union invested in government paper and robbed the credit, and then robbed the credit unions like everybody else. And the credit unions refused to go to court with them because the government. Everybody fighting for the government. They know the government is. So
Yeah.
again, I would love to see people that look like me owning and making money in the sugar industry, but not at the expense of people who also look like me and then turn out it don't work. Government has to divest because IMF tell them so, and they couldn't find none of the people who they want give it to with money, so they come to the poor people to carry their money. That is what this is all about.
Well,
Let me finish. I hear about the prospectus. The prospectus is like hen's teeth. I have not seen it. And I've been checking some hens all along. I haven't seen the teeth there either. But it's probably not. This you have pretty teeth, but they tell you prospectus. If you want me to invest in something, don't tell me that you have a prospectus. Show me the prospectus.
Show me. Well, this is what this person who is making some commentary on this says. Given the secrecy surrounding key aspects of the project, including the extent of the government's involvement, the business plan, and a prospectus which serves as a guide to potential investors, it is obvious that there's plenty more than what meets the eye. Under such circumstances, targeted credit union members and other potential investors should stay away from investing in Co-op Energy's transformation project for the sugar industry. And listen, all I can say is this, guys, have your eyes wide open. All of you who are watching on here, have your eyes wide open. Read this Co-op Energy project. Read, research, do all you can. Okay, Kimar, your thoughts?
Yeah. I just said we spoke to this at length before. We did a show speaking extensively to this. Um, and as Caswell said, this is all the IMF forcing the government to get out of the industry, right? But a bit of history on this. David Thompson actually took over the assets of a failing industry at the time when he came into office, right? And he placed the assets that are now on the BAMC. He placed the assets on the there. But what he did was to also to buy off the debt as well, right? So therefore, the agency was straddled with the debt from the private investors that had it before, right? So now that the co-op is trying to buy it over, serious alarms have to be raised because they're saying that they're supposed to be for renewable energy. But
Hmm.
what about all of the dead assets that they have on the books? Because if this was a lucrative industry, trust me, the private producers would never give it up. Like they would never, ever, ever give this up, right? But my belief here is that this is a transaction, and the co-op is basically playing the middleman because I suspect that these assets are going to be passed over to somebody else, right? I ain't gonna say the nationality. I gonna let us see it as it unfolds, right? Because we have some very big investors into our
What
agriculture.
I can say about that, can just say, Kimar, quickly, and then you're going to get back to your point, is that in Jamaica, though the key investors in Jamaica were Chinese, I can tell you, and that the whole thing did not work. It did not work in China. And remember, we did a show on that, you know. We did a
Yeah.
show on it, several shows, and the key investor was Chinese. So you didn't say that. I am just saying that that's what happened in Jamaica. Continue.
Okay. Well, very interesting you would say that. So, like as I said, this is basically a bridge situation because for the government to come right out and say, "Well, we're giving it over to XYZ people," total outrage, total outrage, right? So they're taking it as the cover owners, and then you're going to hear, well, the co-op is borrowing a loan from the Exim Bank of China, and Chinese don't own it, but they'll be investing in it, and they're the ones who are going to come and do the repairs and do the transition over, and yeah, you know how it goes, right? Um, but the Chinese have substantial stake in our agriculture industry, right? BAMC, BADMC. They're investing substantial amounts of money, right?
The
So
question is, why can't the government tell us this mystery person? There's a mystery investor there. What we that's part of the secrecy, and at the same time, they want us to be ready to invest in this thing. We don't. Who is this? Who? Why we can't take off the mask and let us see? Jamaica told us it was China.
yeah,
Barbados, is it China?
But Marcia, to tell you it's China, but you're reading between the lines. There's one introduced Chinese in school, Mandarin. Remember, I don't want to speak Chinese, so
I know.
we working toward it, but we're telling the people yet.
You're
So
telling them it.
I
Yeah.
I
But
don't
let me
I
let me
don't.
let Kimar finish his point. I had cut him off. Go ahead, Kimar.
yeah. Well, as you know, the government cannot invest heavily in any substantial capital projects, capital intensive projects such as this one, right? So if the co-op invest in it with the Chinese and the government is the co-op, right? But the government is going to form a company, a private company, and it's going to be a joint partnership between the co-op, the government, and the Chinese as it relates to this project. But I will say this: the renewable energy transition in Barbados is dead. Dead, dead, dead. So this is not any real substantial benefit to the people of this country because even Busy Williams said it, and Busy Williams is the biggest investor in Barbados renewable energy. The
Mm-hmm.
problem with renewable energy is the fact that we don't have the battery storage aspect in Barbados because Light and Power is not allowing the government and other people to use their grid to do this transaction, right? Because the government has refused to extend Leighton Power's license to operate as it traditionally operated. So Leighton Power is strong arming the government and saying, well, look, you came and you promised the people of Barbados that if they buy solar panels and they set up the solar infrastructure, that they can feed back into the grid and that they will be paid some amount of money for feeding that electricity, selling that electricity back in the grid. The Prime Minister promised that, right? But no, they don't have access to the grid because Little Power owns the grid. And Little Power is not giving the people, the investors, nor the government
Mm-hmm.
the permission to use that grid. So even when the co-op goes to transition, where are you transitioning for? Because it still cannot
Right.
use the grid.
Correct.
So it is dead in the water even before it gets off the ground, right? But the government had to look for somebody to offload the industry on because they have to meet the IMF targets. So I could bet you some money, Marcia, that in the IMF article consultation report, the memorandum of understanding in terms of economic and financial policies, you will
Mm.
see divest BADMC, restructure BAMC, restructure BADMC. Because remember, the government closed down, I think it was the Barbados, it was BMC and BAMC, and they merged the two into one already, right?
And
They
form
merged the
bad
two.
and form bad MC.
Yes, they merged the two,
BABMC.
right? So this is continue in along the lines of privatization of these different industries, right? But like I said, the traditional owners of the sugar industry were the private capital people with the sugar plantation. But no, right? They want to transition out of sugar cane production because they want to grow marijuana, right? They want to grow marijuana and set up renewable energy farms because that is where the money is. The money is no longer in
But
sugar
I mean,
because
even with that, there is a discrepancy. I mean, your friend is saying one thing, and then the colonel is saying something else of the reason for it. One is talking about molasses and all that, and the other one is talking about renewable energy. So even then, there is some confusion, about it.
when David
They're
Eswick
confused. Yeah.
when David Eswick wanted to build a state-of-the-art sugar factory in Barbados, Tony Moore called a strike at Portville Sugar Factory, right? Because a lot of the sugar workers are actually a part of the BWU, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of them live in St. George North, specifically, right? So he wanted to build a sugar factory, new state-of-the-art factory, and the government did everything possible to block a state-of-the-art sugar factory, right? So it was never about any molasses. It was never about any sugar. We do not have preferential treatment in the world anymore. We have something called a Lomé agreement, right? When Barbados was able to ship sugar into Europe under preferential agreements. We lost all of those preferential agreements. So we now have to participate in the international arena, much like everybody else, right? And
Right.
Indar Weir came out
Weird.
himself. I, I said, right? Indar Weird came out and said, right? He said it himself that they will not continue to send sugar to Europe for spit money and such small money when the government could sell its own sugar on the market itself and gain its own buyers. And it doesn't make sense to be sending sugar to Europe and then we have to be buying back refined sugar from them, right?
Hmm.
So they sabotage the plans to build a state-of-the-art sugar factory, right? They lost the preferential treatments with Europe, right? And I saw this picture already going wrong on Barbados in Barbados. Barbadian sugar is sold for substantially cheaper in other places in the world, but it is sold for extortion in Barbados. Right?
Hmm.
And if you look on the shelves of Barbados, we import brown sugar from Guyana and all types of places. So there's hardly any local Barbadian sugar available for Barbadians, right? So if it is that they really want to produce molasses and sugar, they should be talking about investing in the sugar factory. But no, they are selling out all of the assets. Because they said David Thompson, he was the one who bought over this industry at first, because it was failing,
Hmm.
right? So no, nothing has happened to it. So they're just offloading it as I said, for the
Right.
books, transitionary process, wind it down because
Mhm.
if the government sells off these things to the Chinese directly, as I said, it's going to be a problem. But if the co-op now comes out and says, well, we actually took it over, and then we realized that the plan was not a fruitful plan, so therefore we have to divest these sugar factories and we have to divest the other assets on it. They can clearly say, well, it was not us, it was the co-op who sold off the assets, right? So, like I said, Marcia, I explained why the energy transition is dead. So that reason is null and void, right?
Right.
And I said if they wanted to invest in sugar and molasses, they should be talking about building a state-of-the-art sugar factory,
Mhm.
right? So, but over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, quite interesting there. And so I think these are questions. Here again, you have Clyde Maskell coming out and because when he came out and talked about how much money the Barbados workers, the water, how much taxes they were, recouping from the water. They said it was he made a mistake. So is he made who is right here, the Colonel or Clyde Maskell about the what are the short term objectives of this war? You know, but this is quite interesting here. Now there is something else that has occurred, and this is with the CDB. I don't know if you saw that article, and it's just we're gonna go into something else. But as I'm looking at my phone here, the Caribbean Development Bank, senior Caribbean Development Bank officials sent on administrative leave. Did you see that? 17
No,
January
no, I didn't see that.
2024. The Barbados-based Caribbean Development Bank Wednesday announced that it had postponed to next month its annual news conference, where it was expected to outline recommendations on how it intended to harness regional and international alliances to broker new partnerships for holistic and inclusive development. The news conference was originally scheduled for Tuesday next week, but the one paragraph statement announcing the postponement to February 20 gave no reason. The Caribbean Media Corporation has been reliably informed that senior officials of the region's premier financial institution have been sent on administrative leave. When it announced the scheduled news conference earlier this month, the CDB said that it would be held under the theme Facilitating Resilient Prosperity at its headquarters in Wildy on the outskirts of the capital. It said the participants would have been its president, and it goes on. But so it's quite interesting. They didn't say exactly why these top officials would be sent on administrative leave, but that sounds pretty interesting there. I know if we don't know, no comment, but it's something to watch, right? So I thought
Yeah,
I would bring
well,
that up.
when person goes on administrative leave, you you usually suspect wrongdoing, all right? And you cannot have them working in the place when there's an investigation ongoing. So there's something amiss. There's something that they're alleging might not necessarily be even accurate. It might just be a suspicion. We believe that something is wrong, and we believe that you're involved, and that's what administrative leave is about. You get paid, and you continue to be an employee until such time they can gather the evidence. And if they gather the evidence and the evidence goes against you, you'll be dismissed. If it isn't, uh, well, the places like the Caribbean Development Bank, you do not want to come back and work there having been placed under suspicion. So it is going to be, because it is like more like defamation. You accuse me of, when I'm an international civil servant, and you said to me, I give people the impression that I was doing something wrong. That stain is like throwing mud on a wall. When you throw mud on a wall, it might not stick, but it leaves a dirty mark. So it will always leave a dirty mark on whoever these people are. And you can, and it is like a fellow who has been found not guilty of rape. Nobody don't really believe him. You know what I mean? That is what administrative leave in an institution like that will do. It will leave you people pointing fingers at you. So it is best that you didn't announce it
Mhm.
because it can do damage to a person, and finding a job after administrative leave, and then you left and said, well, look, nobody knows anything to me. There will always be that niggling suspicion that, that felt like he's a crook here. So unless you then have some way to work independently and do self-employment, you're not going to be hired at that level again. So
Mm.
you have to be cautious and careful how you do that to people. Like in the public service, they do it. They put people on, and this is something that bothers me. In the public service, they don't put you on this the interdict you, they call it. Same thing, administrative leave, interdiction or whatever. Same thing, same process, same reasoning. In the public service in Barbados, however, they suspend you on half pay, and that half pay can cause people to lose their homes, cause them to lose, and then you're not guilty. You're not guilty, and then they give you back the money. But by that time, the bailiffs at your door ever since calling for things. They then cut it down to 6 months. I said, but 6 months is still too bad because you are punishing me before the fact.
Mm.
And that is unfair. You suspect that I'm doing something wrong. In the private sector, you can't do it. In the private sector, if you're going to suspend somebody on suspicion, you have to suspend them on full pay, according to the law. And if you don't pay them their full salary, that amounts to unfair dismissal. But in the private and public service, you can do it to people. And what is really laughable, a head of department can suspend you on full pay if he thinks that you have committed an offense, and then refer the matter to the Ministry of Public Service for further investigation or whatever, but based on his report. You're on full pay. I've had a case of cases. People were on suspension for years on full pay. And then it goes to the commission, and the commission can bring a case against you. And they say, okay, no, you're half pay. It doesn't make sense. But mind you, nobody is standing up for these workers in that regard because the government should know better. If the government put a law in place to say you can't do it in the private sector, why is there still a law that happened for civil servants? Yeah. And then you get exonerated. I remember we had Alvin Babu who was suspended and half, and he had hell getting back his money.
Mhm.
People don't want to get back in the end. So let's wait and see what happens with the um, CDB, because it is not something that you do lightly, especially in institutions of that kind of that repute.
Mhm.
Because banks don't do that ordinarily because they don't want the scandal. So if they do it, something is really wrong. But if they
Yeah.
do it and the person is not um, guilty, you have damaged that man for life or woman.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
wait and see.
We will wait and see. I mean, the headquarters is here in Barbados, so we'll wait and see because that matters to us here in the region. On Sunday we have a very very special day, special event, Himar, that is coming off at Independence Square, where we are going to commemorate the birthday of Errol Barrow. Independence Square, 5 o'clock on Sunday, January 21st. Kimar, people see you, you're a young man, and you are speaking out and you are doing a lot of research, you're educating Barbadians, etc. What does what has been the impact, or what impact has Barrow made on your life? In on a see on a because something that's real, because people see you, and they hear you, and I'm curious to know, has it impacted your life in any way?
Well, from a political party perspective, yes. I was a former general secretary of Barrow's party, so from our perspective,
But how
sure.
has he impacted you personally as a man? You know.
Yeah. Um, right. Obviously, I wasn't born during that period, so I I had to learn from reading. I had to listen to the seniors, people who knew him, um, and I had to garner an understanding of who the man was from historical record, right? So that historical record led me to some of his pronouncements as an economist, because he was an economist, right? Um, he was a political figure, prime minister, everything. But his pronouncements were that social justice and economic justice should not just be for the wealthy, but it should be for all people,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Um, he believed in the social benefits, and you see it in the provision of like health care, free education, and the benefits of the national insurance. Those are the three most important principles that I refer to Errol Barrow on in terms of how he provided for his people, right? At large, no, in terms of how he ran the but he created single member constituencies that fight, or he was pivotal in
Yeah,
single member constituencies,
1971. That is
right?
that is when he actually gerrymandered the place to make sure he won the 71 election. He wasn't a saint, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Because the person asked if he created two parties, and then that he created it, but he was a prime. Barbados had more than one party. Before the Democratic Labour Party came in, we had the Conservative Party, we had the Barbados Labour Party,
The
we had a whole host of.
Barbados National
Bar-
Party,
Yeah,
Motley's party.
yeah.
That's
We
where
had
his granddaughter should have stayed.
yeah, but we had a whole slew of political parties, but the Democratic Labour Party came up when Errol Barrow left the Barbados Labour Party because he was actually the member of Parliament for St. George North, right?
That's St.
And
George.
he left,
Not St. George, not North,
but it was
because
St.
there was no North then.
Right, St. George. He was the member for St. George, right? Then he left that organization and he created with some other people we have now the Democratic Labour Party. But it's just that all of those other parties phased out, after some
mhm.
time, and I guess most people born after independence will be accustomed to what the B's and the D's. I only know that because I read a lot. And I ain't a time traveler or anything.
And I saw I when we were doing the film, we had to research all of that. So I can concur with you on that
Yeah.
matter.
Eh, yeah, but his philosophy for the people. So I actually like how he actually took some of what people call it poor whites at the time
Hmm.
and gave them significant social upliftments that these poor whites now are now the owners of massive business. And I could
Goddard,
reference
Goddard's is one. Goddard's.
the- uh, and the Simpson Motors,
Hmm.
give things.
Yeah.
So that type of equity in terms of I mean, people could argue about you could get this body more. I on that part. I just looking at it as there was something in the pot for everybody, right?
Mhm.
So the masses were able to educate themselves up to the university level. If you get sick, if you get if you need any surgeries, anything, you go to the hospital, the polyclinic. Um, in Barbados, you know how to have a job, you get non-contributory pension. And all the whole benefit system that he put in place in terms of the NAS, people didn't was getting school meals, and he put school meals in the school, right? So these type of things touch my heart. And then when I understand, like, what because I understand now that the Barbados Labour Party is actually split in two. There's a heavily, and Kazuka could help me along here. There's a heavily conservative element in there, right? And then there's a more grassrooty or the labor element now that understands the plight of the people, right? So that is
Well,
how you got legislation like the Tenantry Freeholds Purchase Act and some of the other legislations that like people like Tom Adams and those help to bring in place. Um, those pieces of legislation, if I think, you will mainly get that from Errol Barrow or part of like, the city democratic socialism, right? So that type of politics shaped my mind that if I'm ever to go, for if I ever to lead Barbados, and to be given a chance to sit at the high levels, that these type of philosophies always stay with me. So you would never get a Kimar Stewart coming out and saying that the Employment Rights Act in Barbados is too pro-worker and anti-business. That is folly, right? You would never get a Kimar Stewart wanting to sell the airport and the seaport of Barbados. You would never get a Kimar Stewart wanting to sell all of Bridgetown and sell all of St. Andrew and to
I get
sell this country
I get the poor people jobby water.
and put jobby water in people's clean water. You would never get that from me. You would never get that from Errol Barrow, right? You would never get that from I would say Tom Adams, Bree St. John, right?
You would only get that from a Mayor Motley administration. None of the others have been so anti-Barbados as this woman. Here I
Yeah,
tell you,
she's
whether you
she,
like whether you like B's or D's or don't like anybody at all the other people, that even if they didn't achieve what they set out to do, they had the intention of doing it. Her intention is to get the United Nations, go up there on the world stage and let people see her as an orator talking crap and not looking out for the best interests of Barbados. She is the first Prime Minister of Barbados that did not, in my view, look out for the best interests of Barbadians. Everything was skewed toward her friends, family, and LGBT and whatever else people you got, other than the mainstream people in this country. She is not. Um, uh, she used the masses, but she doesn't look out for
look
the
out
masses
for
of
the
Barbados.
masses.
You see,
But
Kimar said something about Barrow, right? And Barrow's
so
greatest.
Caswell, I want when you answer it, I want to hear from you how he affected you personally. Let me find out, Kimar, were you finished talking about how Barrow impacted you, Kimar Stewart? And then we go to Caswell.
Well, let Caswell go ahead. I can
No,
always.
Okay.
that
So Caswell, we
I
know
keep
you
telling
know
you.
about Barrow, but I want you to get mushy tonight. I want to hear about
No,
Caswell.
that I had 8 sisters and 6 brothers. All right.
Yes.
My father worked on the plantation. He was a carpenter, but in those days, nobody
So
building
you said
houses and stuff.
eight brothers and six sisters?
8 sisters and 6 brothers.
15 of you.
Yeah, you know, and I my father has a legacy too. Yeah, and my father was a carpenter by trade, but nobody was building houses in those days. And my father was a very independent man. I remember once the welfare officer for St. Thomas offered my father assistance, and my father cursed him. Said nobody, he don't beg nobody for anything. He man named Aline. My father let him know straight. He worked for we want. He worked for the children. My father did 2 and 3 jobs to make sure that we had food on the table every day. I never went sleep hungry except for one time I had to go to the doctor to tell me I got to drink castor oil and eat and have thing, and that was killing me, boy. First time I went hungry in my life. But my father would have been able to provide the basics: food, shelter,
Yeah.
and a little bit of clothes. Right? My mother also worked on the plantation. Prior to Barrow making education free in Barbados, people paid to go to at the Common Bear, Harrison College, Lodge, those places like that. I went to Common Bear. I would be a far different person now if I hadn't attended Combermere. And I could only have attended Combermere because Barrow got rid of the fees and made education free in Barbados. So that was, to me, personally, that is Barrow's greatest legacy. Something I will always be grateful for. Because and even in my time, because he couldn't make education free university in one fell swoop. So he had to be phased in. So I was
Mhm.
lucky to be in one of the phases back in 1970. Because there was Harrison College, Queens College, Combermere Lodge, St. Michael's Foundation, Allen School, and I can't remember the other one though, but Coleridge and Parry, Alexandria. Those were the schools where um, Barrow said, no, no more fees, you can go there. I got in 1970. If that had happened, my father would not be able to afford to send me to Saginaw School, and he couldn't afford to pay fees. I remember my sister was going to the modern, and my father had to stop. So when out of Barrow's legacy, that education, but I got that. I didn't have to stop. All I had to do is provide lunch for me. And I can tell you something to show you how the cost of living rose from that time. I used to get $1.50 a week as lunch money.
Mhm.
But then again, that was a big thing because being where Monday, Wednesday, 25 cents.
Can you hear Kimar? Can you hear
He,
me?
yeah, I can hear you, but he is gone.
Right, he's yeah. Something is wrong with his. Okay, I was wondering if it was just me. Well,
Yeah, well, I like
this
to.
yes,
I was just saying I would like to. I just put in my last minute or two on that
yes,
particular.
yes.
Um,
Watch your sound. Checking this crackling. Yes, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So as I was saying though, I must say that I have benefited in terms of the policies. Just being fair here. I've benefited from the policies of both administrations. Not traditionally, not this one in particular, but I talk about past
Yeah.
administration of there's a my farm and everything, B's, D's. Not that you got any handouts or nothing like that. But in terms of a broad policy,
Mhm.
you know, we were able to get a little social advancement, right? But if not for being able to go to school, uh, we went to school and get the free education and everything. And this particular part here now is where Errol Barrow now would have been sad, right? Where education became a financial decision, right? Where the last administration would have removed free education from the masses, right? That was the one of the fundamental errors in terms of going against Barrow's and the administration paid for it at the polls, right? But that particular policy allowed me then to go on to the Barbados Community College, which is not necessarily a Barrow idea, but more like Erskine's, so Lloyd Sandiford.
Mhm.
But as you know, Barrow would influence his
Right. Yeah.
thinking and pass it
That's true.
down.
Yeah.
Um, as you see, then you went on to university, went to university. But then when you really go backward now, um, the policies of El Barro in terms of saying to all Barbie, well, it gave me just being frank, it gave me the confidence as a person to believe that representational politics could fit somebody like me. right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because what the Barbados Labour Party had for me was a job washing and sweeping out and cleaning buses, right? That's what they had for me. That's what they looked to me in the face and said, well, you could do that. And they cursed me and tell me ungrateful because they didn't want it, right? So I know for a fact that if Errol Barrow had me to deal with, he would have never done something like that, right? Because I think that he would appreciated the intellect and the everything that I would be bringing to the table. And he would have saying, well, he's not a yes man, but these are the type of people that I want. Thought
Mhm.
drivers, thinkers, people
Right.
who can bring ideas to the table, right? So I would have felt embraced being able to liaise and talk to Elbaro and knock some of my ideas off because a man like that who had the thinking, um, because right now we're even seeing Elbaro's philosophy still living on today. So to have that type of visionary thinking that can stretch so far, I
Mhm.
think a man like that, me and him, would have done so many things together, and I think that you know. But I'm glad to be here with the general, uh, and
Yeah.
learning from him.
Yeah.
You know,
Thanks,
I
sweetheart.
sorry,
We-
I dropped out there just now.
Yes, but we
It
want to
just,
hear about. We want to hear
yeah.
your story.
You know,
Continue, Mister.
and so I was telling you, I was able then to like 150 a day, so my father could afford that, and that was all that he needed to do: provide clothes, provide thing. And when in those days we had to buy books, and lucky for me, we had people in those days. You had to friends who were higher in school than you, so you would get their books cheap, and you went on. But the thing is, if Barrow did not open the door, I would not have gotten in. And then whatever I did thereafter was my responsibility. Also, then we had national insurance. I relied on national insurance on a couple of occasions. I was not one fellow to be sick often. I had one or two sick leave, but I was a fellow more like unemployed because this mouth of mine you always would get me in trouble and people fire me because they stand up. So if not for that unemployment benefit scheme, even though it came in as part of the national insurance scheme by Tom Adams, it was just part of add on to what Barrow did for national insurance. It was just like somebody you had to do improve on something, but the core national insurance, you know. Now I can look forward to a very small pension, but pension nonetheless, based on Barrow's legacy. When as a matter of fact, I can get it now if I choose. But so it is things like that Barrow will, even though you do not know, because you grew up and you used to all of these things, but these things came because the Barrow didn't exist before.
Mhm.
People take national insurance for granted. Just like in Grantley Adams time, people take you get vacation leave, and you can go on vacation from work. It didn't exist before Grantley Adams. But people take it as granted and as something that you always had. You always had it for the younger people, but it didn't always exist
Yeah,
before
always.
him.
Yeah.
You see, so Barrow and those people like him, they start carving Barbados are out of this colonial thing, bringing us out and making Barbados a nation.
Mhm.
So, but we can be proud of because, you know, look, industry, even look, we had Barbados Refugees Service. You had a wire running from the pole to pole to pole to pole, and you had a little box in the house.
Mm.
Barrow then introduced CBC. That was a big thing, you know. We used to call it the private radio, you know. And he started the hotel industry as we know it. Because what happened, Barrow built the Hilton and he got a big name to run it and to show people what can be done
Mhm.
in so Barrow was an innovator. He put things in, he tried things, all didn't work, but he tried things, and some of them to this day have remained successful because of his vision. You cannot for 1 minute not recognize that Barrow brought Barbados to a modern state.
Yes.
You know, it was a continuum. Grant Adams took us from like slavery, like, and start
Mm-hmm.
giving us certain rights. Barrow took over from him because then they think Grant Adams was moving too slowly, and Barrow was an impatient man. He wanted things to happen faster. But and he took over from Grant Adams, and he made a boost. Like, for instance, Grant Adams didn't, was working toward education of the masses too, but not at the level Barr was looking at, because Grant Adams wasn't putting on Common Bear at Harrison College. He created Princess Margaret, um, Parkinson, St. Leonard's, and they call them comprehensive schools,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to secondary school, the grammar school that the schools I talked about earlier were. So Barrow transformed Barbados. And I got caught up in that transformation. And along with my teachers who pushed me and stuff, my parents of course, Barrow had one of the greatest influences into shaping who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he knew me. I spoke to him a couple of times, about 2 or 3 times, no more. I remember once, after he lost the election, we were talking in a group, and he said that after he lost the election in 1976, Burnham told him, Errol, how can a sitting prime minister who's elected don't understand that? you know, Barr was also a Democrat. He took his loss gracefully.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't try to fight back and hold on to power. He lost, and he moved out. He went back and charged Barry to come back again, because he believed in Barbados. And for those things, there are lots more, but for those main things,
Mm-hmm.
I have respect for thing. And then he had a son named David, who I have a lot of respect for now too. But
Yeah.
I had some respect for him. I see you at the airport, but now
Yeah.
he's actually stood up and defend his
Standing up.
father's thing. So
Yeah.
I am grateful to Errol
Yes.
Barrow. Every black person that comes out of a poor family, and that means every black person in Barbados, because no black person was rich. We are just one generation from poverty. But my children will be that one generation in my family, because still poor. But Barrow made it possible to establish what they call a middle class, because there was no such thing in Barbados as a middle class when Barrow came in. You had the rich, and usually filthy rich, and the filthy poor.
Mm-hmm.
And the poor people work for pittance. That is why just a few years before Barrow came in 1937, he came in 55, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not a long time. That's why we had riots, because poor people were living in hovels,
Yeah.
wearing clothes that you had to patch. When the pants get a hole in it, you enter it where, you find piece of cloth, even close enough to the color that it was. If it wasn't, but no, so be it. And you
Mm-hmm.
put that patch in the seat of the pants, and you move on from there. Dresses, you name it. Barrow gave us, when you talk about that mirror image, he gave us something to aspire to. Let's look up to, and keep our eyes up and don't focus down. And he showed us that we can be just as good as anybody else, white, black, blue, Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
that also is Barrow's legacy to the people of this country. Unfortunately, people won't take him down
Yeah. Yeah.
because of stupidness, politics, and nobody's legacy can stand up like I want to create mine.
Right. But you said something there, Caswell, and we have a couple of minutes left on this program. That both of you said it. You said Barrow transformed Barbados into a modern society. So Grantley Adams took it to some, part, and then Barrow came, built on that, and transformed Barbados in a modern society. When you think of all the things that Mr. Barrow did for Barbados, to me it gives hope It gives me hope. It gives me hope, Kimar, that this country can be transformed. I see what is happening right now, and in my humble estimation, based on as I said tonight, I became a Barbadian 20 something years ago, right? You guys have been Bajans longer than I have been, but I believe just based on the sheer talent and intellect of Barbadians, I believe with a love for their country that we can transform this country. And that's why on Sunday, I want us to begin to, yes, we look at what's happening here, Timar, what's going on around us, but begin to cast vision and to see where do we see ourselves in 20 years, and to say to ourselves, Mr. Franklin, where do we fit into that picture? How do we help to to arrive there, using Barrow's philosophy and his vision, as a backdrop? Can we chart a course for the next 20 years? What's our vision and how do we fit into it? That's
Yes,
thinking.
yes, yes, we can. We can check, but the road is not a straight and narrow road.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Sometimes it goes into a fork, and you got to be careful. We going down the wrong fork now in that road, because that wrong fork is more mountain down that side. We have to come back and get back on the transformation that the leaders previous to her established. You know, we sit here and we talk about what Barrow did, and I think Barrow would be embarrassed now to hear all this people trolling over him because he didn't like it, and that also speaks to his humility. He didn't want he didn't want accolades in life or death. He wanted to serve the people of this country, and that, to my mind, we need people like we need people of that same mentality. Now, if we have people of that same mentality, we can go much further.
Yes.
If we continue the way we are, we are going to go back to where Grantley Adams found us, and not where Barrow found us, where Grantley Adams found us. And unfortunately, it is Grantley Adams' party that is taking us there. We have to stop her and go back to that fork in the road and take the right path, you know, and come and Barbados still has a lot of potential because it still has the intellect and the talent that Barrow insisted that we get an education.
Hmm.
I think if Barrow had one regret, now if he could regret anything, he can regret the abuse that we have of the educational system, because he expected people to use it to better themselves. But we have people who leave in school that can't read and write properly or read and write at all. I think that would have been something that hurt Barrow. So we want to come back, make a few steps back to 2018 and go the other way, because that is the only way that we can progress to something in 20 years from now. 20 years from now, I might not be here. I might be looking down at you and saying what Barbados has come to if we continue on this path. I want to see us taking charge of our destiny, because if you have politicians who are not serving the best interests of this country, you need to get rid of them. And that time has passed. We need a new beginning, and once we get a new beginning, we can develop from there, because we have politicians in Barbados who do not serve our interests. And I'll tell you something: they are not suited for public office. Marcia,
Yeah.
I had so many things to talk about tonight. I had a whole set of things that I was going to talk about tonight. Cause I ain't get to this page. I ain't turned the page to this yet. God, you see here, I got here.
I know, but remember we have Friday too. We have
you know,
Friday too.
you know. So
We, at least we touched it. We touched it too that we that you and I discussed, right? So
yeah.
we have Friday too. We have more time on Friday. But I
But
thought that
we have
yeah.
5 minutes, and I can finish. I can let Kimar get the last word, but I can finish by saying, like how it started about workers. COVID is resurging, and I have in my hand a piece of legislation called. I wrote it. I did the binding, so it's not the greatest. The Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act. That act was passed by this administration, and they ignored it. They allowed employers to mistreat and abuse workers because they cannot break the law themselves. So they allow people and encourage people to break the law, and that is, and I'll read just Section 6. Section 6 says, subject to Section 8, an employer shall not require a person to answer questions in relation to or undergo a test for a medical condition as a precondition to entering into a contract of employment or as a condition for the continuance of employment. Under this administration during COVID, employers were telling people that they cannot work in them place if they didn't get a test. We saw Hill Supermarket did it, and Hill Milling or whatever they call themselves, and Sandals and a lot of other people did it. The Minister of Labor knew that this was against the law, but did the Minister of Labor speak up in defense of the Barbadians? Did they suspend the provisions of this law to make sure that Barbadians comply with what they want? No, they didn't do it. They just allow employers to abuse workers and take advantage of them and did not stand up. And a lot of people were forced out of employment or had to go and take these intrusive tests when it wasn't necessary because the government, even though they passed this legislation and it um, came into force in the well, it was passed and got the governor general assent in August 2020. I think they came into force in October. They didn't. In 2021, they let this law sit down there and did nothing about it. So COVID is coming again. It's already resurging the prisons. The, there's some in the hospital as well. So you can see it resurging. Do not let nobody force you to take any medical procedure because the law does not allow it. Thanks, Marcia.
Well said, Mr. Franklin, because I saw that just before I came on. And I said to someone, how are we going to address that? I hope we don't get cut off the air, because that's really what I wanted. But we're going to find a way to talk about it. Thank you. Very well said, Mr. Franklin. Kimar, thanks for coming on. Want to let people know that you're on tomorrow night on Alternate Views tomorrow night so that they can tune in to alternate views. What can you say to people about coming on Sunday at 5?
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing you all there to supporting the young people like Jonathan and Don and Thierry and Timon. Um, the same support that you guys would give to me, I would love it if you could give it to them. We need to bring our young people along, definitely. No man left behind should be the slogan. Uh, and I want you all to come out on Sunday to see them. If you can't come, at least watch the stream and share it to 5 friends at least. Like it, share it, and get it out there because These young people will be the future leaders of Barbados, and it is pivotal that you make a good impression on them. Share your knowledge, help to guide their thoughts, help them not to become consumed with just getting in power, help them not to be consumed with the glitz and glamour, and not wanting to get into her office to enjoy the largesse of office,
Or
but to
take or take
serve.
or take $7,500 checks.
Yes, right. But to serve the people of Barbados who are in desperate need of politicians and political figures who will serve in the best interest and start stealing the people's money, stop being corrupt. Right? I could tell you that if Errol Barrow was alive, 3/4 of those that are in cabinet now will never be there. Right? And we need, I mean, I say we need it back because we're moving forward. We're looking to the future. But you can't go somewhere if you don't know where you came from. Right? So I am very happy to be seeing the Errol Barrow movie on Sunday. And I want all of Barbados to come to Independence Square on Sunday to see what right there by Errol Barrow's statue that we can give a proper and fitting tribute to the man who brought Barbados from the doldrums, from a plantation economy of people working in sugar fields for pittance to a services economy. And my only problem or heartbreak here is that our Barrow was not allowed to live to implement the last part of his plan. And that is, he educated us, he gave us power in terms of the services economy, but no, Barbados is being sold out to people to become the entrepreneurs and the owners of capital in this country. And that is a place that Barbadians should have. You think that our airport should be sold to Arabs? Barbadians should own that. You think that the varsity port should be sold? Barbadians should own that. You think that the East Coast, all of the East Coast should be sold out? Barbadians should be own that. Any public entity like the CNBA, MC that's being sold, Barbadians should be the ones who are the owners of capital. And that was Barrow's last plank of his vision, right? But these people are trying to take us back into servitude and put us back on the modern day plantation and removing all of our rights. And they're not taking us on to that next step that Errol wanted for us, and that is for Barbadians to be owners of capital. But my promise to Barbadians is that I will see to it that that last plank, Errol Barrow's vision, is brought to reality in this country. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Kimar. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. For those overseas who you wish to watch a movie, you'll see the information on the screen of how you can watch it, because we would not be able to show it online, but you can rent it stepbystepfilms.com. You can go there to find out how to be able to watch it. Okay. And somebody here, there's a question, Mr. Franklin, and I had it here, so that he's asking, this is a very important question, if it's possible that all these labor laws can be published to Barbados. We will look at that. I promise you, we will answer that for the next time we meet, which is on Friday. All right. So, folks, thank you all so very much, and we will see you in person. We see you in person on Sunday, and we will see you again on the I'm confusing myself. I will see you again on Friday on the show. Okay. God bless you. Thank you, Caswell. Thank you, Kimar. Good night.
Good
Bye
night.
bye. Yes. Bye bye.